Renuka ma'am, yes, we are good to go now.
Yes, yes. Well, good afternoon to all. It is extremely gratifying to see the International Web Workshop on Communication Challenges in Digital Education, Theory and Praxis fructify as we all gather on this virtual platform to listen to the deliberations of our renowned resource persons. This international workshop on communication is being conducted under the aegis of Department of Higher Education, Haryana, in collaboration with Grand Academic Portal, GAP. It is an NGO which is doing commendable job in bringing quality and innovation in education. So on behalf of GAP, our collaborating partner and host college, Shri Mata Mansa Devi Sanskrit Government College, Panchkula, Haryana, first and foremost, I extend a wholehearted welcome to our honored chief guest, Mrs. Rita Gupta, Joint Director, Department of Higher Education, Haryana. I am privileged as well as pleased to inform all present here that she also holds the additional charge of the host college, that is Shri Mata Mansa Devi Sanskrit Government College, Panchkula. On behalf of our college and GAP, I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed speakers also, who are going to enrich our understanding of challenges in digital education by reflecting on its theoretical and practical aspects. I offer a hearty welcome to all the participants from the length and breadth of India and abroad, whose active participation is going to ensure the success of this workshop. I also convey my heartfelt greetings to Dr. Preeti Oja, CEO GAP and Director Grand Academic Assessment Consortium, GAP, which has actively coordinated with us in organizing this workshop. I now invite her to accord a welcome to our chief guest on behalf of GAP. Preeti ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a vibrant opening of our event today. And instead of saying a word, I would just like to put some video about us, so at least the participants can just get a little glimpse in what and all we all are doing. So with your permission, I would just like to share my screen, and
yes,
would like to put something little bit about what we have been doing. Just let me know if this is. You getting the volume, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. No, it is not active. Yeah. You can put it on full screen.
Renuka ma'am, this was about us. Now, all yours to introduce our respected chief guest, guest of honor, and then start with the program.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am is there. So GAP, as you have seen, is doing an exhaustive work in the fields of research, resource management, project management. So you have already seen that, and you'll also see that how fruitful this association has been with GAP. Now I feel proudly privileged to welcome on board our, she's our respected principal also, but at present she is joining as the chief guest. She is the joint director in the Department of Higher Education. Over to you, ma'am, Rita ma'am, Mrs. Rita Gupta. And we can see you also, ma'am. You are muted.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Rita ma'am, we can't hear you. Rita ma'am, we can't hear you. Sorry, ma'am.
Ma'am, your audio is not clear, I guess.
Yes, she is joined from another. Rita ma'am, unmute, unmute, unmute. Preeti ma'am, can we do it? No.
Ma'am, no, she's talking, so I guess she needs to take care of it.
I'll just call her.
Renuka ma'am, if she's in the office, if someone can just check her audio.
I'll just.
Now am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So sorry,
Loud and
so
clear.
sorry. Because मैंने दो जगह चला रखे हैं, so maybe मैं दूसरे साइड से unmute कर दिया था, यहाँ से नहीं हुआ.
And she is one of our chief guests who has been very punctual. She joined before the rest of the participants. Sorry, ma'am, to keep you waiting.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. No. Respected Dr. Preeti, respected resource persons, and respected delegates from all across the countries. Sir, first of all, good afternoon to all. Sorry for joining late. It gives me immense pleasure to join the participants from all across the country and even beyond at the inaugural session of International Web Workshop on Digital Communication, which is being organized in collaboration with Grand Academic Portals. On the behalf of Department of Higher Education, also as the principal of host college, I welcome all of you who have joined us through this virtual mode. I extend my warm welcome to the distinguished resource persons who through this online workshop will share their expertise and pass on their knowledge to the learners from their own fraternity. I extend my greetings to Dr. Preeti, CEO, guest, representing GAP as well, who has collaborated with us for this event.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I feel delighted to inform all present here that GAP has been doing really commendable work in the field of education. With its motto, Gyan, Adhyan, Parampara, GAP is committed to provide a transformative impact on the current higher education system in India and abroad through continual innovation in academics. I take this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to them that due to the association with them, we have been able to bring on board resource persons and delegates from across India and abroad. The theme of this workshop, Challenges in Digital Education, Theories and Praxis, is very apt, keeping in mind the times we find themselves at present. and also what the future of the education is taking shape into. The importance of digital education necessitated by the pandemic has made it pertinent that this theme be deliberated upon. I congratulate the organized team for choosing this indispensable topic and wish them all the very best for the successful and fruitful completion of this workshop. I hope all participants present will be benefited by this workshop. On this note, I once again thank all present in this web workshop. Thank you, Rinka.
Thank you, ma'am. And the people are still joining. So whatever may be the pernicious effects of the pandemic, but it has certainly paved the way for a hybrid model in education, combining digital and traditional methods of teaching and learning. What is heartening for India is the findings of a new report from Oxford University Press. A study was conducted and insights gathered from experts across 7 countries, India being one of them, the other being UK, Brazil, South Africa, Pakistan, Spain, and Turkey, as well as from hundreds of teachers globally and extensive secondary research. This data has come that, or this, I hope I'm audible, ma'am.
Yes, Renuka ma'am, there are some
Okay.
participants, those who are going unmute. I am muting them, don't worry. Continue, please.
Okay. In the study, it was found that the transition to online learning during the coronavirus-induced lockdown in India was done rather well, though unequal access to digital learning devices as well as lack of internet connectivity were major issues. With the pandemic affecting more than 1.7 billion students worldwide, over the past 12 months, the report analyzed how teachers, students, and parents adapted to new ways of delivering education and will continue to utilize digital learning tools and resources to shape educational practice in the future. In India, compared to the other countries, respondents felt that the transition to online learning was done rather well, scoring 3.3 in the scale of 5. However, there were issues which need to be addressed, and we thank our chief guest that she has pointed out that we have picked up a very relevant theme for this web workshop, and I hope it is going to be fruitful for all our participants. Now, I will move on to the next section of our workshop. Before I start with the next section, I would like to introduce a young, dynamic, and promising colleague of mine, Dr. Malika Tiwari. She has very kindly consented to be the moderator for all the 5 sessions for today. So over to you, Malika.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and good afternoon to all. As moderator of today's event, I take great pride in welcoming all the attendees of this international web workshop on communication challenges in digital education. And I welcome Mrs. Rita Gupta, Dr. Gurudatta Japi, Madam Preeti Oza, and also Dr. Renuka Dhyani. Teachers like you, academicians like you, and your mindfulness and inventiveness is the reason for such knowledge-laden events. So I bid a very warm welcome to all the renowned speakers and delegates who took out their valuable time and joined us today to be a part of this workshop. And we are honored to have you all with us. Friends, we all who have gathered here are higher education providers, or simply saying education providers, and are also aware of the diversity of our current and potential learners. Through digital learning, especially, we have moved to provide a range of options for the engagement of our learners. We potentially increased the flexibility of our delivery modes, provided multiple pathways and opportunities for the students who otherwise were feeling insecure in this gloom-stricken world. But while this uncertainty loomed over us, we're trying to bring a one-size-fits-all approach. And today we are here to talk about that, to talk about the challenges that were automatically brought with this one-size-fits-all approach in digital learning. And we have an expert panel with us who is present today to enlighten us more about the situation. And this panel is world acclaimed. This panel includes world acclaimed academicians. We have Dr. Manjula Srinivas from KC College, Mumbai. We have Dr. Suparna Chakrabarti from Heritage Institute of Technology, Kolkata. Dr. Francisca Vidyavati from Indonesia Catholic University. Dr. Bhumesh Bidasi from Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. And Dr. Sanjeev Gupta, consultant and faculty trainer, Chandigarh. I personally feel proud to be a part of such an intellectually elite gathering, and I hope all the attendees today share the same emotions. Well, since everyone is here, we should get started. Ma'am, shall we start?
Yes, Malika ma'am, our first speaker is already in, and I think we are
Okay.
running a little late, so 2:30
Yes,
dots we are starting
sure,
with the
ma'am.
first speaker.
Sure, ma'am.
Yes,
I'm profoundly delighted to call our first panelist, Dr. Manjula Srinivas. Dr. Srinivas currently is heading the Department of Media Studies, KC College, HSNC University, Mumbai. Madam has more than 24 years of experience, and the topic on which ma'am is speaking today is digital media literacy. Forum is all yours, ma'am. Welcome, Dr. Manjula Srinivas.
Thank you, Malika, for that introduction.
Thank you.
Most importantly, thanks a lot to Grand Academic Portal, Jappi sir, his entire team, and a special thanks to Preeti. We go a long way. We know each other for more than 35 years. So I think the whole exercise of academics being taken to different parts of the globe is commendable. I personally am working very closely with GAP, and I realize that what kind of exposure they are giving us. So thank you so much, Preeti, for those opportunities that you have been just sending across to me. And I wish you will continue doing that. So without
so
taking
kind of you. Thank you, ma'am.
I will start, and I'll promise I'll keep it short. It's after lunch session, but trust me, you will not get bored, because I think in this pandemic and in this virtual platform, we all have become more of performers than good teachers. So we have to keep it engaging. We have to see that something is come to the table which you take away with you and say that, wow, this is something which I think is important. So if I may be allowed to share the screen, have you enabled that?
Ma'am, it is already enabled. You may share your screen, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If you can see my presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is. It is visible, ma'am.
Yeah.
You can maximize the screen if
I'll do that.
it is possible.
I'm doing it. Yeah. So maybe 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And if you have any questions, you can keep putting it on the chat box. I am Dr. Manjula Srinivas. I head the Department of Mass Media, and I've been teaching about 1,000 students who register with us for the UG and the PG programs of our department. We bring in a lot of research in the in the system with our students also. So our PG students do a lot of dissertations, and that's where this entire process of research started in the department. Why is digital media literacy so important, and why Grand Academic Portal thought that so many of you have joined us on Zoom or are going to join us on YouTube? Realize the importance of it. Let me tell you one thing. I've been doing a lot of these training programs on media literacy. And the surprising part is that a lot of people assume, or rather think, that they know a lot about media. They know a lot about how to be on social media. They know a lot about how to understand the tools which can be used. So there are other speakers who are going to talk to you about, let's say, the tools which you can use online, or COVID and education, what exactly has been the effect, or for that matter, how do we manage these kind of situations, as rightly pointed out by the earlier speaker, or sorry, the anchor, that how do you look at something which is hybrid, or maybe it may continue to be like that in the years to come. So as teachers and students, how do we embrace that? So technology by itself is a huge thing for us. As Prinsky has told, that we are digital immigrants. We are not digital natives like our students. We were never born with these tools. We have kind of acquired and trained ourselves, and the training continues. Today I am training myself at the age of 54, and I expect that we all here who have gathered want to learn something different. And if I say that, are we media literate, maybe you could answer me over the chat box by the time I finish my presentation. I have got a very small presentation, but there is a lot which can be deliberated, because this is our concern as media educators, that are we doing a good job? Are we creating graduates and postgraduates and students who are into the industry, who could understand how media can be used as a student of engineering, as a student of computer science, as a student of any other faculty, whichever you talk about. So I think media literacy is binding all of us. Media literacy is keeping us together. And sometimes as teachers or as students, we realize that, okay, this is not my part of knowing. Why should I? I have just taught through my, maybe a marker pen and a whiteboard, if not a chalk and duster kind of methodology in the basics of teaching and learning. What exactly is it that I should also know, so that I can, raise my bar, because of which my students can also look at me as somebody, oh, she knows about this. So simplest of simplest things about social media, how do we connect? It's not about using Facebook. It's not about being on Instagram. It's not about being on Twitter. It's not about getting trolled, or it is not about being a part of troll. It's not about only following a celebrity. There is so much more that as teachers we have to know. Similarly, the students have to be also told about it, that what exactly it is. So I can use a lot of tools to teach my students. But what about those networks? What about those platforms? What are giving us misinformation? What is it that is bringing a lot of chaos in our life? Today, if you speak to your students, or you yourself as a senior professor decides to understand that what has pandemic done to us, we have started talking to the screens, which is like very true. Earlier also it has been discussed. So how are we engaging our students? How are we going to keep them updated with the latest of the technology and latest of the skills if we ourselves have not acquired? So this workshop is definitely a kind of a curtain raiser for these things. And all of us as speakers are bringing to you something which you will take away by the end of the session. So what would be the definition? The ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create media in various forms. Now, when I say media, media is not only what we say as television and films and print and all. Now you're looking at media on the digital platforms. If I say today an IIT student or an IIM student is taught production of media, which was only related to students who wanted to pursue films as their career. That's not the truth anymore. Today, if you want to promote a product and if you want to specialize in marketing, you have to know production. And it is a big no-no for most of us. Like, I don't know how to go there. I don't know how to upload. I don't know how to use my online options. I don't know how to use these tools. I'm talking not about as a teacher. I'm talking in general as a netizen, as a person who should be aware of what the online options are getting, upgraded from time to time. And am I aware of it? So when I say media literacy, then there are two ways in which you can comprehend it. One is obviously media literacy from the traditional point of view. For example, if we normally understand what media is all about and how that media should be a part of education, that media should be a part of teaching and learning process, you need to know that there are some legacy media, like, for example, print, television, films, radio. These are all those old-fashioned so-called kind of mediums, which we have been using in different ways. For example, today, if somebody wants to teach a concept, he or she can use a virtual lab, or he or she can use a film. He or she can use an online puzzle or quiz or a practice classroom in Google. So these are all the advanced forms which we have to imbibe and acquire. And since we all are connected through one app, which is Zoom, how many of us know that there are what other features which can be used when I'm making an effective PowerPoint? What are these newer forms of PPT making? Why is it that we have to go to our children or to our junior teachers to help us, that please, can you just upload this? Can you just share this? I don't know how to do it. I think these are the fears inside a lot of us, which has to be removed. Correct. So media literacy basically means that you should know what media is, what exactly is a different way of looking at media. What exactly as a teacher should I know to say that I use critical thinking? Today, when I talk about critical thinking, we talk about critical thinking only coming to communication skills, or maybe as a student of psychology. That's not true. Thinking differently, thinking out of the box, thinking from third person's point of view is an application which all the forms of education and all the industries are looking at. The extension of which is visual literacy. If I do not have that kind of vision to look at something today, if you're looking at an ad and you say this ad is good or bad, you say a film, it is good or bad, you say this particular post is not good or it is bad, there is something which is literacy which makes you decide the good from bad, or maybe information from misinformation. I mean, we all joke about it and we talk about a WhatsApp university. Very honestly, we should know what to forward and what not to forward. How do we look at fake stories? How do we find that the news which has come to us is not correct? Okay. And how something which is information is not information, it is misinformation. Cultural competence is very important because I think we should know, we should sense what is it that I should be aware of. What is it that should make me more respectful towards people? What is inclusion? We study them as concepts. Do we really practice them? This is literacy. Citizenship, again, you will have to understand that there are so many ways in which we are different. We have our own conflicts. We have our own personal conflicts to professional conflicts. We have our conflicts of identity. We have our problems of whether what I'm doing is correct or not. That means ethics. When I create something or I communicate something, how should I do it? What are the ways in which I should do? So these are some of the most important concepts which we need to keep in mind. And when I say digital literacy as a media professor, I think it is not just about being on social media platforms. It's not about being on, Instagram, not about putting a post. It's also about how we train our students to use these platforms in the best possible way. How can you network with them? How can you bring business with them? If there is somebody on an Instagram who is putting posts and you realize that those posts look very obviously promoting something, he's an influencer. He or she is putting it because they're getting paid for it. So we may get carried away that, oh, this product is so nice, but for all you know, the product is really not nice. So if I don't know as a teacher, how do I tell my students about it? So I think these are the concerns which the digital literacy is bringing to our notice, that how do you keep yourself secured? How do you keep your details away from people who are trying to hack your accounts. Relationships online, yes, you should have, but to what extent? What kind of collaborations will bring better visibility for people? What is privacy management? Why do we have this very smart ways of telling the rest of the world where we are? Is it really important? Or is it that you could just share some pictures and say that you are doing a, you're having a great, time? So there are case studies on it, where people have put themselves into trouble. Online safety is very important. If we do not know how to keep ourselves safe and understand the security which cyber laws are bringing to us, it is about time that we learn these things. We kind of train ourselves again and again. I think most of us did not know what an email is. We didn't know what internet is. We didn't know what mobile phones are. We have learned all of that and come to the situation where getting literate digitally is not something very difficult. So how do you do it in stages? So let's say first you build critical thinking abilities, which will help you connect to your own self, and you understand what exactly it is that will make you a better media literate. Second is to empower and help us engage in today's global challenges, which I think in the other sessions also we are going to discuss, that are these challenges only with us as Indians, or is this like a global challenge? Let me tell you very honestly, a lot of people whom we collaborate and we work with during our international conferences have the same set of anxiety, same set of issues when there is a presentation. Today, when you are making a presentation, you do not know whether you are doing the best job or is it something which you have to change. That means what? The technology needs to be used. And we will not survive if we do not have these skills, which is your 21st century skills. These are some very interesting, figures which I thought will make you think about it, that by 2022, there are going to be 820 million users in India with smartphones. There are already 400 million people who are using WhatsApp. 320 million who are using Facebook, which means it makes us the biggest market in the world. 835 million people who have access to TV, which is larger than the population of Europe. You can imagine the figures and the numbers we have in our country. Okay. And what about the young Indians who are from 16 to 24? 37%. We are a very young country today. So if you look at these statistics, which is not from me, it's the yearly report which KPMG FICCI brings about media business. And what is media business? Why, as a computer teacher or as a humanities professor or as a mathematics professor, you should know? Because ultimately, whether we are bringing out engineers, we're bringing out doctors, we're bringing out management managers or media or, normal arts, science, commerce graduates, it's very important to know the market is out there, which is the digital space. And you have to use that digital space in such a way that you know the boundaries, you know how to filter the information from misinformation to disinformation. If there are conflict areas from where information is coming, and if there are videos being posted, we very generously just share. Do we realize what is the impact of that? We have a classic example right now in UP. We look at those videos, we look at those content, and we make our own, what you call as conclusions, what we call as media trial. Today, if there is a person who is behind the bars for whatever, but he's a celebrity son, we all are hooked to the television, not because we want to know whether he's going to get bailed or not, but what is happening? How is it happening? The curiosity. And that is where the information needs to be filtered. We must encourage our students not to get into the gossipy part of it, not to get into the, what you call as misinformation. So fake news is the most important problem which digital platforms are having. We have been brought up with a newspaper, which is English, Hindi, Marathi, whatever language. We have been reading newspapers in its hard copy forms, and we realize now that source of information is disappearing. We may go to a digital platform to acquire news, but as I go online, there are 10,000 websites which are trying to lure me that please come to me, I'll give you the information. So we do not know which is the set of information which is the most authentic. And if we as teachers can guide our students, then obviously information in its right form should come to them. And that's where social media is making a lot of lucrative business. It celebrates tragedy. It romances with information which is so pathetic, and you want to see that video. You want to watch people in despair. You want to watch people how they are suffering, to understand that suffering is like this. So where are those gatekeeping mechanisms? Where is that 14, 15-year-old kid who has a mobile on his hand? I'm talking about the schools and colleges together. How do you tell them what is the differentiation? I remember an A certificate for a movie means it was a big no-no for all of us. Where is that certificate today? If you go to over-the-top platforms, everything is uncensored, and some of it can be very disturbing. So literacy to the teachers is very important, so that we could go back and educate our students and tell them, you may watch, I don't have a control over what you watch, but please don't get into a situation where you fall into depression, where you fall into some psychological issues. The kind of news that comes on social media can be very, very disturbing. It may destroy a lot of beliefs of ours which are true, but we may fall into it because my friend has thought about it and my friend's friend has thought about it. So the trolling starts a lot of times without knowing the issue. You just want to write about it. So what exactly is the current scenario if you realize that we are working from remote spaces? We have these digital transformations where the speed at which the transformation is happening because of work from home is unbelievable. As teachers, we realize that there is nothing like 5 o'clock. Sometimes you are answering people at 11 in the evening also. Correct? Why is it important? Because when they graduate and they go to an industry, they need to know how digital media functions. How can you look at your own customers? What exactly are the organizations expecting you as young graduates? So if we do not know how the skills have to be developed, how will our students do it? Sometimes they're smarter than us, but there is a lot of room for the right information. So computer skills are going beyond spreadsheets. They include people trying to protect their private information and gauging a source's credibility, which is so important in today's times, that whether if I get a call and if a person is very persuasively telling me, I may just give away the code, which is not the code, which is not the one-time password. It is actually access to my account, and I have lost money. So the digital part has made a lot of changes during the COVID, where we did not like this online banking. We did not like online Aadhaar. We didn't like online options of doing things. But just think about a train reservation, how people used to stand in a queue. Where are those queues now? They've gone. Where are the queues in the theater? We have got everything like a book my show. So technology is there. We need to know to thank it for what it is giving us. Vetting information is critical, else spread of misinformation through a brand's platform can ignite serious trouble. There is something like a crisis a company has. There is something like a problem which what happens then? How do you ease yourself out of such troubles? Digital literacy helps us keep ourselves authentic, stay away from conspiracies, and sometimes they are so believable. I don't know how many of you must have seen. If you have not seen, please watch. Suddenly I saw a YouTube video showing a man in the dark trying to take a video of people who he thinks are supernatural powers or who are ghosts. Now that entire thing is doctored, it is all Photoshop, but any layman, when he sees, or a young boy or a girl, they see, they may get scared. Somebody has to tell them it is a fake video. So what is literacy means? It means we should go and try and have efforts where the platforms which are available, we need to practice them very well. A 360-degree experience of a product by a company online, whether it is on Flipkart or it is on Myntra or it is on even on your Amazon or any other app, is something where production has happened. A good picture of a model which comes on your online websites is part of media. The aesthetics of it, how beautifully you can bring it. So if we have the skills, we can tell our students about it. This is something which is very elaborate. I'm not going to talk about everything in detail, but what exactly digital media literacy does to us is, in the area of marketing, we become stronger marketeers. In the area of customer service, we are aware of how to get the feedbacks from our clients and give them the best service. In the area of telecommunications, what exactly are the newest of new options available which can make the entire communication paperless? What are the kind of collaborations you could do to keep your business, to keep yourself as a smart teacher or as a smart professor, or train your students to become smart managers? And how does it enhance the productivity if you are digitally literate? You will be very surprised to know that a lot of people today hire our students if they have a great LinkedIn profile. And I'm sure not everyone here is using a LinkedIn account. So if you are not using, then how will you expect your students to create one? And the employer is actually looking at the LinkedIn profile even before asking you to come for an interview. So we are helping our students for placements if we are digitally active, but in a very responsible way. It's not about digitally being engaging by entertaining ourselves. We need to educate ourselves to ensure that these platforms, these networks are used for business, for good productions, for good communications, for good visibility. I must tell you in this context that the media business report which has come. Is somebody saying something? Yeah.
No, please continue.
Yeah. So the media business, which is right now, is at a growth of 28% in the next 3 years. The highest business which any media company can think about is through digital platforms. So whether a company which is putting money for advertising, a company which is putting money for marketing, a company which is looking at how my brands and my business should be visible online, there are people in the age group of late 45 to 50 who approach us and say, listen, I think you should do some training for my senior staff, because they are very hesitant. Are we also not hesitant as teachers? We are. We think nobody can come and tell us, listen, you don't know. So the first thing I believe in digital media literacy is to unlearn certain things. The inhibitions should go out. We should invite newer ideas. Even if that idea is coming from a young person, we should be able to embrace that. And that will only happen with repeated sessions like this, which GAP has organized, or we inculcate those newer forms of technology in our teaching, in our training our students to be more employable. Why are we here if we cannot equip them? Yes. Thank you so much. That was what I had to say. And I hope I tried making my point. If there is anything which anybody has to speak or ask or comment, I'll be very happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, madam, for this stimulating presentation. And it truly is an essential 21st century skill and demand us to be proactive. And there is already a boom in the digital media users, as you said. And we as teachers, academicians, cannot afford to keep ourselves away from these transformations. And challenges like tracing the source of information, authenticating them, engaging students in professional platforms like LinkedIn were constructively discussed in this presentation. Thank you so much, ma'am. So our next speaker is Dr. Suparna Chakrabarti. Dr. Chakrabarti is at present working as head of the Department of Humanities at Heritage Institute of Technology, Kolkata. Her areas of interest are English language and literature, applied ethics, and development of pedagogy. So without consuming any time, I would like to call upon Dr. Chakrabarti to accompany us on the forum and enlighten us with the words of true wisdom. Madam's topic for today's workshop is pedagogical tools for digital learning. Welcome, ma'am.
Dr. Suparna ma'am, good afternoon and once again welcome on GAP platform. It's been always a pleasure to have you with us, ma'am. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Ma'am, we cannot see you or hear you. Please unmute yourself and turn on your camera also.
Malika, she is visible, but we can't hear her.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
So these surely are the challenges of digital media.
Yes, we are facing some challenges. Suparna ma'am, try to
unmute.
Maybe, she can just log out and log in. It will work, I guess.
Dr. Chakrabarti, we still can't hear you. Our apologies for these technical issues. Renuka ma'am?
Yeah, I think Dr. Suparna is trying to join again. I think we'll give her a little time to rejoin.
She is entering now. She's in the waiting room. She's entering.
Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
We can hear you.
madam.
But yeah, sure.
Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Computers have their own mind.
They
Okay.
know when to back out.
Yes, yes, yes. They behave like poor students.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for the patience that you have shown. Could you all hear something?
Yes, ma'am.
I in fact wanted to ask you whether who's making this.
How many of you looked out of the window?
I tried.
I didn't look out, but I tried to find it around
You
you.
tried to find the source of this beautiful melodious bird music. All of you, many of you, I'm sure, looked out of the window. Raise your hand, all those who looked out of their windows.
I tried to find a window behind your.
Yes, I also tried to find it around her.
I was trying to make a point, The point that I was trying to make is that we are wired, to experience through the physical space. We are wired, that is the way we are. And in these 2 years, we've, our space, that physical space has, come contracted so much that we feel isolated. The biggest problem that we are trying to understand is this. And I am coming from the eastern part of the country, Kolkata to be specific. And in the streets of Kolkata, you must see people coming out, Why suddenly, after 2 years, there is revenge tourism, there is revenge shopping, hopping, everything. The problem that we are encountering now is this, and today's workshop, we are trying to find solutions to it. That is all that we are trying to do. Because the virtual mode is not in sync with our psychology, with our attitude. We are trying to adjust with limited result, but nobody is happy. While we have accepted that this is a truth, this is the situation, but nobody is happy. I take a pause here. I like to interact with the people who are there today for the virtual session here. I would like to really thank Mrs. Rita Gupta, Joint Director of the Ministry of Higher Education, Haryana, and the principal. I suppose she is the principal of this SMMD Sanskrit Government College, Panchkula also. Panchkula is a very nice place also. Very
Must visit it.
Yes, and to organize such a workshop, other participants are there. Dr. Preeti is there. Dr. Manjula, just now she talked about digital literacy. Yes, ma'am. To be very frank, we exerted ourselves to learn. 2020, since March, April, May, we were simply learning. It was tough time, but it was happier times too. We learned many things. Manjula, you were right. You were absolutely on the point, when you said this. Across, in our department, one will be student, one will be teacher. Hey, can you hear me? Can this work? So that is how we learned. That is exactly how we learned. And all the other participants, please use the chat box. I'm challenging you to challenge me today. Okay? So please challenge me. If I say something which you don't like, you are free to ask me questions. Please challenge. Don't be passive listeners. Then this whole workshop will not work. And today my whole aim is to share my experiences, about this learning process of mine, what I learned. And what today, after nearly one whole year of engineering, I teach in an engineering student, engineering college where UG and PG students are there, where you must understand the communication skill, ethics I teach. These are humanities subjects and these are all complementary subjects. One class I have to devote to make them understand why you should study this. And in all this Millie, what is important is that I realized that in this whole 2 year, one whole batch of first year students, we did not meet each other and we finished 2 semesters. Those children have gone to the second year without even visiting the college. Forget meeting me. And yet, there is a satisfaction that something could be achieved. It was not a big waste. This whole 2 years, something could be achieved. And I'm going to today only share my experience of trying to, bridge this physical distance. That is all that I was trying to do. Bringing this online class as close as possible to the offline mode. We did group discussion in this online class. We did. GD was part of their, communication language lab course. So we scratched our head how to do it, then we did it. Then this last month we had debate online. Everybody was skeptical, but we did it, and thumbs up to my students. The way they adjusted to this online platform. So I will not take much time, half an hour or so, but participants, please, you are, I will not say supposed, but you are encouraged to be participative. Otherwise, my experiences will not have any meaning. Will not have any meaning for you unless and until you relate to your experience as a teacher also. I'll start the formal workshop and I will share my screen, but understand please, in my actual classes, I have stopped sharing screen during the class. I make presentations and I share it with my students, and that also not after the same class, because they think that they are very happy with the PowerPoint presentations because it is ready-made material. So I have stopped doing that. I have stopped sharing it in the classroom. I provide that after 1 month. I note it, lecture 1, lecture 2, I do that. But after 1 month, when there is a test, I say, okay, now study. Because I have seen that, with the PowerPoint presentation, I become complementary. The PowerPoint presentation becomes very, very important for them. But still, today there is a PowerPoint presentation. Let me just share. Hope it is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I will straight away come. This has been my topic, pedagogical tools for digital learning. When I'm talking about this, I am not talking about digital tools. Google Classroom has been a great, source of help, but still I'm not talking about that. I am talking of specific pedagogical tools that will help you to make your online class as close as possible to your offline class, provided the students you are able to encourage the students, which I'm not being able to do now most probably with the participants here in this workshop, to engage with you, to engage, to create, to talk a lot, to create, sometimes, create a cacophony in the class. Accept it. You know that they are there. You're very sure that they are there with you. So what has changed teachers' role has changed. Now they are acting as content experts, as learning process design experts, as process implementation managers, as motivation and mentors. Earlier you had a syllabus, set number of classes, lesson plan. Sometimes so you thought that today though I have to finish these 3 topics. You went into the classroom, wrote all the 3 topics, and I used to say that quiet, absolutely quiet, no noise for 30 minutes, and I have to finish these 3 topics. And they were there and they would listen to you. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. They would do it. Now they are always quiet. Online class, when you are talking to them, they are doing what with their phone, WhatsApp? You don't know. They're always quiet. So, you have to now decide how much content you can deliver in a class of 55 minutes or 1 hour maximum. And when you've decided, and we are minimizing. Earlier in the offline class, the amount we have to deliver, now we are not being able to do that. 5 times so you have to speak, am I audible or not? All that, when they are unusually quiet. So all that has happened. Then when you've decided the content, how to really deliver. The earlier teaching method, pedagogical method is not working. One-to-one is not working. It has to be a very, very, dual participative approach. And most of the time, I start with either a caselet, a recent thing that has happened since I teach ethics. Every time something or the other, keeps on happening in our life, around our life. So I get many stories with which I start. 10 minutes though goes like this only. And then I start saying, okay, today, oh ma'am, we were studying up to now. Yes, this is part of your topic. That is how I have to go. And process implementation managers, very important, because ultimately you still have those 12 or 20 number of classes where you have to finish your syllabus. Because NAC will come, NBA will come and say, what did you do? So documentation is the role that you have to do. But the major role as motivators and mentors. Earlier also we were motivators and mentors, but there was less effort to be done. They would come to the college and the atmosphere in the college, the ambience in the classroom, they would be automatically motivated to study. Now though, who knows what they are doing? They are lying on their bed only and then studying. 2020, our college starts at 9. The first class was at 9. We decided to start the class at 10. Half of them we go asleep. Attendance is not compulsory in online class. Now also, if I say switch on your video, half of them will say no, ma'am, no. I have to tell them. Next class you have to switch on your video and then you can speak. So they are lying on their bed doing what, and your class is also on. So as motivators and mentors, your job has gained a lot of importance. Okay, your role, all this role is there. Now what do you want to do with it? How are you going to really deliver? That is important. So I have one point that you please keep in your mind. Technology is helping us. It can leverage faculty time, yes, but it cannot replace the human contact without causing significant loss. Loss is still there. When I say that my journey was to bring the online class as close as to the offline classes ambience, 50% success has happened. If I'm very kind with myself, then 60% I will do. More than that I cannot. So there is significant loss, yes. And the loss is with the students who are generally a bit of a passive introvert. The loss is with them. You can't get hold of them in this online class. It is becoming very difficult. So now let us straight away come, to the challenges of delivery of content. Content that you've prepared. If you want, you may make a PowerPoint presentation too. Earlier, I used to also do. But this semester, this September end, when we started, I'm receding. They will ask me, ma'am, are you sharing a screen? No, no, Sri. Listen to me. I have started telling them the way you used to take lecture notes in the offline class, please do that only. So that the whole idea is to keep them engaged for that 1 hour. Otherwise, you are teaching, they are doing their WhatsApp business. So what is the challenge really? You see, lack of interaction. The biggest loss for the teacher, it's loss of control. No, you entered a class and there would be pin drop silence. Everybody ready. Now you start a class, they get in, they are going out, then coming in, ma'am. Network is the savior now. Anything happened, why you were not there in the class, ma'am? So remember, please, you have this loss of control. First few months, there was a lot of anxiety. Now, with some methods, implementation, anxiety is no more there, but success, complete success now. 50%, 60%. You have to find out from the participants list, who has not participated in your class and call them up. And your whiteboard, the board which you had, the canvas which was there in the classroom, that cannot be replaced by these PowerPoint slides or digital boards. It is not working. I have taken feedback from my students. They say, ma'am, how to concentrate, to listen to you, to see this keyboard or look at the presentation. Distraction is there. An increased noise in communication. Some of our children, we are in the eastern part, so some of our children they are from Bihar, Jharkhand. 2020, we had oral exam. Don't laugh. Some of our children were literally sitting on the tree to get good network. Because video was important. Without the video, we wouldn't validate the test. That is important. The children are living at far from places. There is background noise to some of them. They find it very difficult to concentrate. There's so much happening around them. So there is a lot of noise in the communication process that is happening through the online platform. A lot of noise is there. Apart from the physical noise, the mental noise. How many of them are really concentrating? In the physical classroom, you could at least see the faces you knew. 10 times you wouldn't be asking them that, have you understood or not? Their faces told you. And this obfuscation of the whole physical space, we are not together. We are not together in one classroom. Sometimes though, since I teach ethics, I used to be, the topics would be very, very controversial and political. So I would ask my students to close the doors. Nobody can hear outside the corridor. That physical space, that warmth of that physical space, ambience, it's just disappeared. A lot of loss. Do you realize? There's a lot of loss. Is it, do you realize that, this is happening with you also? Yes, participants? Is it happening with you also? Anybody? No? Have I lost the participants?
No, ma'am, we are very, very much there.
No. Is it the
Yes,
same?
ma'am, it happens with us also.
The same thing? Is it ringing in? Yes, the same thing is there everywhere.
Yeah.
Our children are saying, the students are just like that. Now let me share my experiences of how I tackled with this, how I really, tackled. slide is not changing. These technical notices I'm tired of. Okay. I've already told this, that, the classroom, the offline classroom content which you had, you couldn't take it, make a PowerPoint presentation and take it in the online class. You couldn't be able to do that. When I prepared the syllabus, there was course outcome. Now I have come to module outcome, or sometimes I start by saying that today's class, the take home is this only. Only two things the take home is. And that more or less sets the tone for the class. Children are, and think about it, they sometimes say, ma'am, classes since morning to evening. Offline class also you had the same thing. Quietly somebody would say, no ma'am, there to be to bunk the class. Here to we can't, we are at home, parents are there. I don't know whether you realize or not. Online classes, attendance is very good. At least on the paper, everybody is logged. How many people are there to anybody's guess. Start from micro. Attention of the students is just for hardly 2 to 3 seconds. So please catch them with a very, very micro idea and allow the class to talk on that. That is one mode that I have started. I don't even talk about the topic. I don't even do anything. I simply start with a discussion. Today you will learn this one sentence. No big, definitions, topics, nothing. And I have realized that in the past, 1 month or so, I have started classes with questions to generate a discussion, minimum 10 minutes. And here, I have started using the chat box as a blackboard. This has really worked. Earlier in the offline class, the blackboard was for the teacher only. Now the chat box has become a blackboard for the students. And one realization through my experience is the students, who were backbenchers, who were not very, extrovert, they are the ones who will give their comments in the chat box because anonymity is there. This is something I have found. That, if you use the chat box, after every 2 minutes you ask a question, there will be comments in the chat box. Sometimes so I sit quietly and I say, no comment has come. So I also will keep quiet. So they start giving that. So that is a very, very, because in the online classroom, 1 or 2 people only can speak at a time. I organized debate and it worked, but it worked because my students behaved in a very, very mature manner. After this 1 year of online class, they also have picked up a lot of, manners and etiquette about how to behave in an online class. That also has happened. So try and see these things will work. Use the chat box. Use the chat box so that they can, move from giving comment to what you are saying, to asking questions, anything. Sometimes they will go off the track. Okay, allow that. But that works. This was about content. Introduce your content in a very, very, passive manner. That is the reason I stopped sharing screens. This topic, that topic, that topic. It was becoming very formal, and the moment it was becoming very formal, they were, leaving in the sense they're logged in the class. Attendance is important, but they were not there in the class. So in a class where 60 students are logged in, on an average, 30 students will be there, continuously interacting, and then you pick up, and then pick up somebody who has been quiet for say 5-10 minutes. Then the class is alert and they know, okay, ma'am will ask us, oh, you have not commented, you are not there in my class. So that approach has really helped. One major change that I have made in my own self. I do not teach anymore. I study together. This process had started, before the pandemic also, because I was realizing that Google was nibbling, at my content. The content I delivered in the classroom. Now what is happening, you mention a topic, you mention a term, all of them will start, they are there in their home, all of them will start searching for it. So if you have to, regain control and respect in your classroom, you have to really work harder to bring in content which they will not just like that get. So don't talk about terms and all. Slowly, build up the knowledge without mentioning terms, definitions, nothing. You can post that in the Google Classroom after some time. You can post that. So I have really stopped teaching as such. We have started studying together. And this is what I thought I penned down, that move on towards a participating approach, very, very important. Allow the participants to use the chat box as their blackboard. And I allow them to, disagree, and then quietly I sometimes say, Acha, okay, a lot of debate has happened. May I also come in and add my comments? Oh, yes, ma'am, do it. I allow them to forget me. Keeping a watch, how whom to unmute. Keep a watch. Allow them. That really helps. I promise them, if you are there in my class, study every day, then your learning time will be less. Most probably that motivates them to join the class. You still exert, we as teachers, we are control freaks. We push our students to do what we think is right. But in today's pandemic, approach, I say pandemic approach to studying, we are studying in a very, very different manner. In that approach, you have to, let loose certain restrictions. Discipline is not so important. Sometimes they start, chatting among themselves. Then you have to say, hey, what is happening? Oh, again, but yes, I'm sorry, ma'am. So you have to allow them little bit of more space than they were getting in their offline classroom, and then they will be coming to your classes in boards, and enjoying. Till date, hardly 10% of the students will ask you very difficult questions. 2020, it was so perfect silence in the classroom. Now, the noise they make, the comments they make, all that has slowly, come up, and I do get a feeling of, offline ambience. Many of them are talking, okay, in the chat box also, no? So allow them to do it. But still, as far as I am concerned, for me, the challenge of bringing the introverts, that is still there. That is still there. I have not been able to, successfully do that. I have not been able to do that. I'm trying. And then my experience tells me that if I can change myself, if I really can change myself in the way I used to prepare the content, the way I used to deliver them, and also the way I come to the class now, if I can make these small changes, you know. And in the virtual classroom, you know, my whole role has changed now. I gave them a question, why study? Okay, 1 minute you have to speak, 2-3 people. You know, the other question comes, ma'am, why did you study? I said, okay, first you answer, I'll answer. And you have to. We are slowly moving towards that. Earlier, though, most probably in the offline classroom 2 years back, if they would say, ma'am, why did you study? I would get angry. Oh, you can see what I'm doing with my study. But now you have to answer. You have to answer. You in a virtual classroom, if you want to bring them closer and have a ambience of studying, being together in their journey towards their achievement of their goal, then we have to change. We as facilitators, we as mentors and motivators, and we as faculties in the classroom, we really have to change our attitude. Your whole idea of your whole place in a virtual classroom. That is what I personally feel. And I had to, while I was trying to encapsulate my experience in all these 2 years, and this is what I felt: don't teach, study together. That brings me to the end of what I wanted to share. I don't know whether there's time or not to share, for the other participants to share or not. Madam Maldika will say that because there are other resource persons too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for telling us and making us realize that we are now not just teachers, but how our roles have drastically changed in these past 2 years. We have become content experts, design experts, and thank you for the personal anecdotes. And we all face the similar circumstances, and we would love to incorporate the solutions you suggested. And an extremely intriguing thing that you made us realize was the two-way use of the chat box, which was earlier more of one-way communication in the classroom. And thank you for this amazing presentation.
Malika ma'am, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just can't resist asking. Suparna ma'am,
Yes.
you have always been a very passionate teacher as far as communication skills go. I remember. Ma'am, what do you think that the communication as a subject, or maybe as a as a subject to study, or as a course or a paper? Somehow my own experience is that we are not able to complete that subject in itself, because that I'm getting just one small window on my screen, and what and all I deliver, what and all I expect. Because when I talk about communication, I'm sure others also will agree to this observation. Renuka ma'am also coming from the same background, that the whole person standing in front of us, or we as a person standing in front of 100 of my students, and the way we just exchange, or way we interact, that part is I'm not able to do it in that 2x2 window I'm getting out of 100 students, or maybe 60 participants. So Suparna ma'am, how to go ahead with that? Because I think we all identified the issues what you have raised today.
What I have understood is, remember, I started last year, when the first batch came, first batch of students in 2020, we started our classes. We were supposed to do in July. We started in October or so, and the students had not met us. One induction program was there. We said hi, that's all. And they had not seen the college also, but they were part of the college. And many of them, data problem, this problem, that problem, so they wouldn't, switch on their video. I started realizing, I used to switch on my video, so what? I started realizing that my personality was not impacting them. I've been in this college for nearly 16 years, and I have a reputation of being a devil in the college, so people know. So before I went to the class, the reputation had traveled, and I entered pin drop silence on that would happen. Now it was not happening. Virtual classroom, there was pin drop silence. You wouldn't even know that they are there or not. I started engaging with them with my personal anecdotes. I I started communicating with my personality to them with my life stories. You know, I come from Banaras. So some of them who are Hindi speaking, I have studied in UP, Lucknow and Banaras. So some of them, the Hindi speaking, they started speaking in Hindi. I allowed that. In the English class, I generally don't. They were so happy that they have come to Bengal, and nobody understands their Hindi. And sometimes, so, they cannot speak in English. Offline, though, they would come, close to your ears and say, "Ma'am, can I speak in Hindi?" They would say like this. But now the moment I said, so I realized I was extending my personality through the stories about my own life. It was difficult. I had never done this. I believed in a distance between a teacher-taught, relationship, and there was a code of conduct for me also. I wouldn't do it. Why should the students know from where I am? But I realized, that was helping. That was really helping. That is what, emboldened this student, Padmanabho. I taught him in first year one lab, then in first semester, then second semester also something. Now that whole batch is in third semester. So when I asked them, have we met earlier? Yes, ma'am. 2 semesters you did this. So, there was a sense of, belongingness. And since I am doing it. Ma'am, don't you feel closed? Then I told them, you see, this is my small study. So one day I took up the camera from here and showed them. It was difficult to understand that I should allow them into my personal space. But that helped them. Ma'am, so many books. Yes. And I read it, So I was, I was coming closer to them. So you may try. It is difficult. After so many years of teaching, we have, what should I say, framed personalities, It is difficult for us to change. But you may try. You have to, there will be questions where you will say, no, this is not something to be shared. You have to tell that also, but you may try. That helps you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Malika ma'am, sorry to take such a long.
No problem, ma'am. No problem at all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Suparna Chakrabarti, for this amazing presentation. And this is the time for our next speaker, Dr. Francisca Vidyavati. Dr. Francisca Vidyavati got her doctoral degree on interreligious cultural studies from Garza Mada University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. And she is now a vice rector and senior lecturer at Indonesia Catholic University of St. Paul, Rutang, Flores, Indonesia. And her topic for today's presentation is Global Education During COVID-19. Welcome, Dr. Vidyavati. The forum is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you. Is it okay to on the camera? Because I cannot do that.
Yes, ma'am. Francisca, you can put your video on.
No, it said that you cannot. Okay.
No. You
okay,
can
it's now. It's
yes.
now. Well, thank you, Dr. Malika. Good afternoon, the committee, the speakers, and all the participants. I would like to thank to the committee for inviting me to this conference. And in particular, I thank to my friend, Mrs. Dr. Priti Oza, for bringing me this prestigious forum. Greetings from Indonesia for all of you. And the title of my presentation, let me say it first. Can you read that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, thank you. The title of my presentation is the COVID-19 pandemic, digital literacy and challenges for the teachers. And my theme is look like similar to the previous speakers, and I hope you are not boring with that. And this is the outline. There are 4 points of my conversation. First, My starting point is the COVID-19 pandemic situation. In this section, I will look at how the new history of the world has been shaped by the health crisis of these 2 years as the new context for thinking about education. And the second is the rise of communication technology and digital literacy. Crisis often breeds creativity, new offers, and technology is developing very rapidly. And this is like a medicine to overcome a physical limitation caused by the pandemic. But even so, this situation can be toxic if we are not digitally aware. So digital literacy is very important. And the third, I will specifically talk about millennial generation as important subject in the world of education. And the fourth one, after looking at the current situation, the role of technology and characteristic of the students, at the end, we'll talk about the challenges for the whole situation for educators or teachers. And let us see one by one. First, let's start with the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has become the most popular and sexy vocabs within these 2 years. Wuhan, as the city where the virus was born, has also become an important history of human civilization in 20th century. These 2 years, our lives are overshadowed by fear. In the beginning, our focus was always on the news about how many people were infected, how many died, who infected whom, and all this drained our energy. And moreover, like rapid spread of virus, information, including hoaxes, also propagated even faster. The pandemic that came in waves has become the situation, information, and condition that is not only a health program, but also the crisis of human life. And a pandemic is a truly crisis. First, of course, the health crisis. The virus is threat to the body, causing physical illness, death, and we are faced with difficult conditions, lack of medicine, oxygen, media equipment, and many people died. And the second crisis is also humanitarian crisis. This dire situation is not just physical pain. The pandemic is stripping away our humanity, our dignity. We become people who are easy to judge, suspicious, accuse each other, assumes that others are the sources of disease and the cause of disaster. On the other hand, poverty and poor governance also cause limited service to the humanity. And another crisis is also economic crisis. The pandemic has caused many people to lose their job, be fired, have reduced resources of income, become poor, forced to save money, and economic growth has been slowly. Many people are in debt, and many schools also stop their operation. Teacher salary maybe stops, and like hotels are closed, air and land transportation are losing money, restaurants are deserted. Of course, not all, because some actually get rich suddenly with the pandemic. Another crisis is the crisis of justice. We are facing with the issues of justice, equality, and marginalization. Many shouted the injustice of the ruler, the use of pandemic as the way to enrich themselves, not paying attention to its citizens. COVID has been used as the political tools, new ways of exploitation. There is a gap between rich and poor, between advanced and the lagging. So is the issue of vaccine. We heard about countries where vaccine as products not necessarily to serve the country, but the rich countries. And this is also the crisis of the world, the country, and the institution. And within this pandemic, we are still have to obey the health protocols. It creates new pattern of life. We must keep our distance, studying still from home, pray from home. Physical distance becomes important. Gathering is the source of trouble. Working in groups, playing without doing activities or outbound become a frightening specter to live together, and one joint being with another is almost irrelevant. And in another side, the technology and communication industries sees the pandemic as the opportunity. We are in the era where the revolution technology is rising to its peak. Technology is developed. So many applications have been created to make our lives much easier. It is incredible. Internet for everything, then internet has replaced many traditional roles. The world's changed a lot. And the world is like at our hands is increasingly become a feature of our lives today. Life is without technology is like empty. For us, forgetting our cell phone at home or no signal or no credit pulse have become big problems as if the world has stopped moving. However, the digitalization aspect of life make us live like in a network. And within this situation, we are living with the millennials generation. William Strauss and Neil Ho mentioned that the millennial generation or generation of Y who were born in early 2000 with a lifestyle that familiar with technology and relies on technology and the internet in their daily lives. They are familiar with social media, get information from social media as the main resources. The internet is also means and source of learning and research. And however, these make them more individual. Children seems to be more individual, stay in their room, quite materialistic, less caring for other, friendship in cyberspace, and they often maybe smile or laugh alone, play games with virtual game, and virtual is their real life. And in this period before COVID-19 pandemic, our lives were already leaning rapidly toward technology. Technologization affects many aspects of our life, including storing information, transmitting knowledge, historical records, and other social communication forms. And according to Martin, our human life and civilization have been pervaded by the digital technology. The 21st century world is digitally infused, a world influenced and guided by electronic technologies, effects, and products in different phases. However, in the issue of justice, although this is the main feature of our world today, it cannot be denied that there are still many children in the world, including in India and Indonesia, who do not have access to technology. Many students in rural areas lack of connectivity, and many lower income students lack access to devices needed to use the educational technology tools. And during the pandemic, so I turn now to the theme of education during the pandemic. There's a few things there. COVID-19 pandemic continuously creates massive disruption in the field. The COVID-19 directly affected nearly about 1.6 billion students in more than 190 countries and territories all the continents. Many schools and campuses around the world are still closed. And the most apparent impact of this change is the rapid shift from conventional education to the virtual learning and research. However, there are some critical notes on that. The crisis identifies the rapid shifting in the practice of education in learning and research and the technological gap, e-learning problem, psychological impact, and modes of communication. Much research is being done to study the impact of the pandemic on education. And these studies target crucial issues as technical aspect of e-learning, the psychological impact on pandemic, and the point of view of scholarly communication under the COVID-19 pandemic. And shift transition towards online learning have a crucial impact on the cultural structure of educator and learning. However, there are limitations. The response to the crisis adopted by educational institutions, both schools and university, is still limited and only deals with the aspect of media delivery without paying attention to the theory and models of effective online education and research. Therefore, online education and research discourse during the COVID-19 pandemic is only oriented to perspective of building an emergency distance teaching and research platform. And this condition creates other problems for educators and learners and researchers. This is because the creation of virtual classroom and online research is often carried out without adequate training, skills, and other supports. And many educators face severe physical and mental fatigue. They also have to spend long hours in front of the laptop screen without interaction or with very interaction with their students. And this is why we need digital literacy. Digital literacy is as the concept of encompassing all aspects and competencies related to several essential elements, including media and technology. I think the previous speaker have already talked about that. And with the increasing intensity learning remotely under social distancing schemes, learners should quickly and effectively adopt a new way of learning, researching, and communicating through virtual means, and ensuring learning can access digital technology. Some of us may easily accept and carry out digitalization in teaching and learning activities. And the effective of applying digital skills require a balance between digital information technology and human being element. And the acquisition of technical competencies to use information and communication technology as a broad understanding in addition to purchase the essential practical and intellectual capacities for individuals to develop themselves is a fully information society. And of course, we still talk about digital literacy related to technology and the human aspect that use media. It can be understood as a set of technological skill or competencies required for various purposes, from access to information. Conventional activities in education cannot be fully implemented at the present. The shift of digital literacy and teaching and online research require applying new teaching strategies and materials to address all of these digital technologies and tools. And digital literacy requires specific skills and knowledge from computer programs or software, the internet, and digital technology rather than traditional reading, writing, and research skills. And some significant changes are required in syllabus, focusing on development students, educator, researcher skills in conducting online research. And the transformation, the need for importance of digital literacy during a pandemic present crucial challenges for education and humanities, of course. Educational actor cannot avoid this flow of change. At least there are challenges for the literacy for education during this time. Digital literacy is primarily related to the questions about availability of digital tools. And the second, digital literacy is related to the competencies issues of digital technology users needed to facilitate teaching and research work. And changing in identity of educational actor is an important issue under the challenge of digital literacy. And digital literacy will influence the culture of learning and research. Virtual classes inevitably affect and the intensity of interpersonal interaction between teachers and their students. And online research will also reduce physical encounter between research and their source. And I skip this one. And this new approach encourages digital literacy and intercultural competence and concentrates on developing student autonomy, being cost-effective, inclusive, and creating authentic spaces for learning and research. This shift highlights a fundamental human aspect of how people communicate and quickly adapt our communication skills to suit emerging methods and modes of expression. And collaboration in digital technology in its own right gives us the break to duplicate our one-on-one interaction in the real world into virtual world. And while digital information literacy skills are essential to get through this situation, the humanistic sides, including the sense of empathy that digital machines do not have the course, still must be maintained in our learning, teaching, and research process. And the remarkable growth, of international internet use has not necessarily corresponded with improved digital literacy. Internet users are predominantly households with higher incomes. They are more likely to afford and access devices, internet subscription. Lack of internet access is strongly linked to low level of digital literacy. Inexperienced users are unlikely to be as the component of resilience as those who use the internet on daily basis. Expanding access, especially to disadvantaged community, is crucial for digital literacy improvement, and the inequality access is also visible in the sector of education. And education as the suffering aspect, this is my closing remarks. And the education as the suffering aspect of our current life and situation need to build synergy. The education sector is required to be solid and united by encouraging the fulfillment of digital needs of teachers and students. And these steps should be taken decisively without compromising the quality and academic standards of curriculum, teaching, and research in our school and campuses. We still have the opportunity to prepare the future by leaving behind many memories of the past. And in the field of education and, of course, humanities in particular, our task is not to rebuild our connected system, but to reshape the structure of learning, teaching, and research processes, then building relationship among related practitioners. I think that's all, and thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Vidyavati. And it was an informative presentation. And we completely agree with the extensive drawbacks of the advent of digital education. I myself had written an article a few weeks back on the digital divide, which comes along with the digital education. And a rapid shift to digital education with poor preparation has definitely unearthed the long-standing inequality in our society. So thank you for putting forth this beautifully before this forum.
Malika
And,
ma'am, there is, I
yes,
think
ma'am.
someone has raised the hand.
Okay.
Manjeet Singh or someone.
Okay.
If the
Yes.
question is coming from them, please.
Yes. Please, if somebody want to ask any question from Dr. Vidyavati, please welcome. You can open your mic and camera and join the discussion.
Dr. Francisca, thank you so much for putting it, in a very elaborated kind of a way and all. Just one small query that in Indonesia also, the kind of, the kind of um, complete, lack of infrastructure support sometimes in some remote areas, because as far as I know, you come from one of the most, remotest part of Indonesia, maybe Java Island. And it's not like the touristy kind of Indonesia, what we know, like Jakarta or Bali or maybe Yogyakarta. So, because in India, as our previous speakers have already told, that we are having the digital divide, and it has nothing to do with the teacher's competence, but it has everything to do with the kind of network or support or devices at times, or the phone or the laptop. How are you placed in Indonesia, especially in your remote part of the island? Would like to know that.
Thank you, Dr. Priti. This is a very great question, and that's right. That I come from Eastern Indonesia, and which is very different from the main island. We are considered in Indonesia, our islands or our parts, the eastern part is still considered as underdeveloped in comparing to like the western part. And during the pandemic, we face very much difficulties in dealing with the education, in particular because we have to obey the health protocols, while we are also forced to still have education for our students. And yeah, as mentioned by previous speakers, we also face the problem that we like the lack of access, the lack of internet, and also the lack of money for people to afford like gadget or pulse or credit are some of the challenges for education. And there are so many schools, especially in rural areas, during the pandemic have been totally closed. So there's no education at all, and students just play and or stay at home or work with their parents. And however, in like a small town where the signal and the internet are available, still we use online online teaching and learning. But as we know that sometimes it was not going very smooth because there's so many disruption and limitation on that. But I think we face the similar difficulties on that. This is my response. I don't know whether
yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I also want to add one idea with this. I was watching one local YouTube channel and they were showing the situation in Kashmir, that how the children there are coping with this digital education and the advent of the virus, and the entire education scenario had completely changed. So they showed that the teachers there, especially in the government schools, have started this concept like community schools. They call children at a very large space like parks, and very, very large spaces where students can sit at, maintaining distance, and that's how they were teaching using the mics and speakers. So that was also one unique idea in this scenario that could be incorporated by all of us, but not like cities. The cities in which we are living in becomes a little difficult, but they especially has these kinds of spaces, and that's how they used these resources in a very unique and uh, uh, a unique way. So this is also one of the solutions that I got, and from a YouTube channel, and I also wanted to incorporate it with my students who are especially are not getting these kinds of amenities during this pandemic. So the
That's
next speaker
nice.
that we have, yeah, thank you, ma'am. So the next speaker that we have today with us is Dr. Bhumesh Bidati, and he comes from Department of IT, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. Dr. Bhumesh has specifically called the digital education forced and remote learning. So let's hear from him, and he's present with us with the topic online teaching and learning, shift in mode of delivery during pandemic. Welcome, Dr. Bhumesh.
Welcome, madam. Thank you very much for your intervention. I have been following closely the interventions of the panel. It is very interesting to note that some of the views which I have tried to compress in a small article is being reflected by almost everyone who has spoken. So let's.
Sir Bhumesh, if you can put your video also on. I think you have not put your video on. And thank you so much for accepting our invite and joining us from all the way from Mauritius.
Yes.
And actually, Grand Academic Portal is having a very special bond with Mauritius, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Rabindranath Tagore Institute, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
It's my pleasure to have this platform. And let me first actually congratulate all of you for this laudable initiative. What is different from one of the most beautiful countries in the world, it's India. As compared to India, Mauritius is a very small island, but the challenges and issues being faced by academics, teachers, and students are more or less similar. And we have tried to find out, alternative solutions to be able to actually cope with the pandemic. So I'm trying to share my screen. I have not prepared a PowerPoint because I know most of the presenters will be doing their presentation as a PowerPoint. I have tried to actually look at it at the point of analytical point of view. And I've been teaching for the past 2 years as a part-timer. But my main field of work is actually the technologist. I'm the technologist, which has been responsible to deploy all the online learning materials and systems. So basically what I have tried to analyze is that the COVID-19 has disrupted the industries, and also it has been actually disrupting the way that teaching and learning has been done. Okay. The thing is, what happened with the closure of the schools and the forced lockdown? Actually, the students were left on their own, and educators and academics at large in Mauritius have been left with no solution or practically no available resources to continue learning. Okay, so what happens is that, what happened actually rather last year was that we were left without guide, no training, and actually no prior online resources to be used to conduct teaching and learning. Okay, so this small presentation or small sharing of experience, which I'm trying to do right now, is that we wanted to evaluate how the learning experience was leveraged with the advent of the, let's say, digital education and the way how the technological platforms were prominent during the pandemic. So actually, I would like to read the abstract first, just to let you know a little bit about the gist of the presentation. So COVID-19 has disrupted most of the industries of the world, and education is one of these industries. So we had to learn about the strategies to deliver content online to ensure continuity of learning, and especially in the tertiary education sectors. The study which I'm trying to put forward is to aim about the challenges and obstacles faced by the teaching sector to deliver the lectures and practicals online. And we had to aim to provide the appropriate technical and pedagogical tools to overcome these challenges in communication, especially when the students and the lecturers have been stranded at home with no physical contact. And we are trying to find about the results which will help to prove us whether actually we are being able to migrate from a traditional face-to-face university to a blended one, or as we call an e-university. Because actually the challenges in conducting lessons and classes with the second wave happening in our country, we are forced to continue the blended mode or online mode of teaching up till December this year. So the keywords which have found out for the system of research is COVID-19, education industry, the online learning, connect to the learner, and remote learning in Mauritius. Okay, the forced remote learning for online mode of delivery of education has influenced the way that teaching and learning has taken place, because in another way, the COVID-19 has forced us to adopt these strategies. And in Mauritius, there has been a law which has been promulgated by the government of Mauritius to actually take all the educators and lecturers in the country to adopt the online teaching and learning. Because, whenever we wanted to do this type of blended learning, there was some resistance on the part of educators because they did not know which tool to be used. So by law, we are right now required to automatically conduct the online teaching and learning, especially when there's a period of lockdown or extended stays in Mauritius due to bad weather or, let's say, forced closures. So by law, all the educators in Mauritius are required to conduct online classes, whether there's a need for it or not. Okay, so once we are actually forced to do it, we have to do it by hook or by crook. So the educational contents were developed in that frame of mind that we had to continue learning, taking into consideration the students' benefit, because we have to take up exams and assessments at the end of the day. Okay, so my analysis of the situation is that whenever we are forced to do something, we either choose to do it willingly, or by hook or by crook, we will be called upon to do it by any means possible. So my main analysis of this situation in Mauritius is that we have the technological, let's say, infrastructure which has been ready for the past few years. This is one thing. I will explain about the technological aspects in a while, because I've made a survey and let's say conduct a research, because our island is a small one. We have been installing all the required network and internet facilities. Okay, but then why did the online teaching and learning did not take place? Okay, and why did the students were reluctant in adopting these online strategies? I will explain to it a little bit later. So actually, there are three approaches to conduct, let's say, successful online digital transition. The thing is, you have to have your technological infrastructure. So internet facilities is a must. The second part is the development of online materials, second part. And the third part, which is, let's say, missing or in progress, is the development of content which is suitable for online teaching. There's this element called instructional design, which our staff or our educators at large in Mauritius have not been trained for that. So these three approaches have to be covered properly so that with training, with experience, all the learning materials which is being converted to the online platform will be ready for receptive audience. So basically, Mauritius is a small island which is around 2,000 square kilometers. And according to the network coverage that our internet service provider has been providing for the past 10 years, we have successfully migrated our ADSL infrastructure to the fiber optics networks. And right now, as of 2021, there we have been successfully embracing the 5G technologies, which have been explicitly developed for Internet of Things. Okay, small technical things which I will pipe in between my expose, because this will be important for us to actually converge towards the fourth industrial revolution in Mauritius. So once our infrastructure is ready, we had to move about creating the content which was missing at a certain point in time. So here, the decision was taken in 2015 to actually replace the ADSL network in Mauritius by the new fiber optics technology. And the project took us around 5 years to complete. And then now the most common form of internet facilities that we're having is to get at least the internet speed of 50 Mbps at home. For enterprises, the internet facilities in offices and businesses have gone up to 1 gigabit per second internet speed. And this is feasible thanks to the network and the small topology of the island. So then network coverage the investment in network coverage was very large, but it was beneficial because the, let's say, baseline of all internet facilities or avenues was possible. So with the network coverage and the broadband access, we had the possibility to actually build any type of applications or implement any type of learning management system because our infrastructure permitted that. Right? So in the three-pronged approach of, let's say, successful digital education, the technological part has been taken care of by our internet service providers. So this solution was ready. But the second part is how did we come around to produce the learning materials that were required for the students to be continuing learning? Okay, so we found out that since the lockdown had happened, the educators did not have anything to prepare on, let's say, PowerPoint or educational materials on their own. So we had to find alternative solutions to continue their teaching and learning. And these educators or academics at large in Mauritius had to prepare their own content at home by using their own equipment, let's say laptops at home, or prepare PowerPoints, or learn to do it by using Google or let's say tutorials available. And they had to learn on, let's say, on a on a trial basis. So actually the contents were prepared by trial and error. And at a certain point in time, these systems were vetted and curated by some teams of the quality assurance of ministries or internal teams set up by the institution that we are working on. So once these contents were ready, so they had to be prepared, vetted, and produced in a systematic way. And these contents had to find somewhere to be repositorized in a sort of database. So the next step was to create a learning management system. So the LMS was the third, let's say, angle to which this content should be pushed on the online surface so that students could get access to them at any point in time during their course of study. But side by side, if you take about the challenges that the educators faced on their own, is still about the internet access at home. Despite the technological advances that the country made, the price of the internet remained an issue, because it was still expensive to get a connection speed of at least the thing. And then what happened is the government of Mauritius took the decision to supplement this type of, subsidize at least these internet facilities for educators in a short amount of time. So some help was sought from the ministry, and we got a package of internet so that these could be used for educators to work on their contents at home. Okay, once the learning materials were ready, the learning management systems created problems because the educators did not know which virtual learning environment to choose. So the adoption of appropriate online platforms remained blurred despite several technical advancements in producing open source or paid learning management systems. Okay, so actually, from experience, what I have gathered is that some of the educators were reluctant to produce their content because of copyright issues. So they were not at all very familiar with the system of open educational resources available online. Some educators did not even prepare class notes. They used to actually conduct lessons on a face-to-face basis by getting the content non-curated. For example, let's say a teacher has been teaching a subject for the past 10 or 15 years. The same content lessons were provided to the students without any update or without any enhancement to the lesson notes. And these were some of the challenges that the educators were having, or even lecturers, because they did not want to update themselves to provide the contents in a fresh and attractive way online. So these types of resistance and challenges, we got some issues with that, because the more that we put pressure on these people to produce contents, the more delays were there. Okay, so basically this is one of the reasons why the government had to resort to promulgate the law, so that whenever there's a, let's say, someone who refused to do the contents online, they had to be penalized by law. Okay, so then the second part, once the content solution to the content providers were, let's say, solved, the third issue that came around is how to communicate to the students about the lectures and notes that were prepared online. So we found out that some of the students did not even know how to access the learning management systems, or how to access the contents and notes that were presented to them. Because we have to bear in mind that in Mauritius, we have several levels of students from the secondary and tertiary sectors, some of which of these secondary students, they were from very, very poor backgrounds, or very low, let's say they come from very, let's say, how do I put it, very low revenue income generating parents. So the access to these type of technologies, or even devices, became a problem. Some of the students who are, let's say, very bright in their studies, they were very well off in their, let's say, environment. Access to this type of education and internet was not a problem. But what happened was, how do we address the issues of providing the contents to these students who were not having any type of, let's say, smartphone, internet access, or even, let's say, communication devices? Okay, so we also found a solution for that. So we had to produce contents to be broadcasted on our national television. And these contents were pushed to the national television on a daily basis. And these people, these children who were not able to have access to their online platforms, they had to watch these lesson programs without interaction. They were just presented with the context, and then they had to write their, let's say, lessons on their own, and then they had to take examinations later. Okay, so we have, while pushing forward the digital aspect or online or digital education, there were several aspects that we had to take into consideration because of the status and the income of the society at large. Okay, so Mauritius is a fairly small country. Access to educational materials is free as per our Education Act, but the contents becoming online nowadays require preparation. And sometimes these contents, whenever we are trying to write the contents online, it demands a certain amount of preparation and embellishment. And these are actually paid services. I was talking about the educational technologies. This is a fairly new domain which educators and academics in Mauritius are not very well trained in. We will require to have educational technologies so that we can transform the traditional, let's say, lessons that are present in textbooks or even lesson notes in an online format. And the method of writing open distance learning materials differs considerably with the traditional way of writing contents and notes for lessons. For the secondary sector in Mauritius, we have a set of subjects which remain constant. Let's say science, economics, mathematics, languages, literature, humanities. But for the tertiary sector, due to the demands in, let's say, courses, there might happen that there's a new avenue of study in tertiary level courses, the contents of which have to be prepared accordingly. And directly from the textbook format, or even if notes are not available, the contents have to be freshly written in the ODL format. And this requires lots of investment, training, and facilities put at the disposal of the academia. So basically, after talking about all of this, I have tried to make a sort of comparative study of how we are delivering courses in the MGI, the Mahatma Gandhi Institute. So at the MGI, we are running courses, in collaboration with the University of Mauritius, and all the policy decisions pertaining to the courses in MGI is being regulated by the University of Mauritius, which is one of the leading public institutions in Mauritius. So whenever the University of Mauritius, which I will call the UOM, is taking the decision of pushing their contents online, we had to follow very closely. So what happens is that whenever we had the decision to push our contents of our lectures, which is basically the promotion of Indian culture and visual arts, the MGI is basically dealing with tertiary courses ranging in the fields of performing arts, languages, and visual arts. And we offer degree, diploma, and postgraduate programs. All these programs are being run in collaboration with the University of Mauritius. So they took the decision in the year of 2019 to actually start on a gradual phase to push it through a system which we call the flipped classroom system. So the flipped classroom system permitted us actually to put forward our learning management system and convert some of our courses, at least 50% of our syllabus, in an online mode. And this preparation, which started in 2009 and 2019, were actually beneficial for us so that we could cope with it in 2020 and 2021 during the first two lockdowns for the tertiary sector. Earlier, the expose which I have been doing earlier was with regards to the secondary sector. But for the tertiary sector, fortunately, we were at least prepared to actually push some of our contents online, because the learning management system and the communication strategies and the development of online resources were actually ready since the past 2 years. So here, for the technical development of our learning management system, we had to choose the Google Workspace for Education, which is an education suite powered by Google in the cloud for implementing the Google Classroom feature. So this system has been chosen by the University of Mauritius, and we had to implement it at our own pace at MGI. So the Google Workspace is an educational tool providing suites for Google Classroom, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides for creating contents online. And the Google Suite for Education, so previously it was known as G Suite, now it has been rebranded as Google Workspace. We have the assessment feature, which is embedded in this LMS, so that students could take any number of assignments and assessments online. So some of the areas actually which were fitted for the Google Workspace was the creation of content for lessons in Asian languages, lessons in philosophy, which we are doing here. But we had some issues regarding the lessons and the practical classes related to the School of Performing Arts and Visual Arts. Because, you know, traditionally the performing arts and the visual arts is basically a system where the student and the teacher are usually face-to-face, and the teaching of Indian classical music is basically word to mouth, with no actually system of providing lecture notes. All the, let's say, I don't know if you will concur with me, Indian classical music is being taught by using rags and, you know, sound and the science of, you know, pronunciation and sound and playing instruments. So the issue is, how do we put all these contents related to performing arts and visual arts, which is traditionally making, let's say, drawings, sculpture, paintings, etc., on the online platform? So this remains something which has to be researched more in depth. But an alternate solution, which we call as a workaround solution, was that we had to use the video feature of Google Classroom, which is called Google Meet, so that the students and lecturers could actually capture their contents in a video format and post it on the classroom for future viewing. Or even using the Google Meet feature in the Google Classroom management system, the interaction was, let's say, in a predefined slot, face-to-face and live. So interaction using, you know, with video conferencing solution, even Zoom, permitted some of the lectures in these fields which I have been mentioning to be done actually on a face-to-face basis. But the issue remains with the student attention span. I've been noticing that some of the intervenants have mentioned that the students might be online virtually, but how much of content have they been grasping while you are trying to explain on Google Meet or even Zoom? All right, because whenever we have been doing classes online, we had to every 5 to 10 minutes asking ourselves, is the student following me, or are they gathering, or are they understanding whatever we are being teaching them? Okay, so some areas require more reflection in terms of delivery of educational contents. I mentioned in the field of performing arts, creativity, and fine arts, because it goes beyond the traditional aspect of delivering education. So I've come around some of the research that has been done in Mauritius itself. There's, let's say, some major works that need to be done regarding the polishing and the streamlining of contents that need to be addressed or pushed forward on online platforms. So I've been looking around for some, quotations from the internet, and we have seen that with the increased movement in the digital space, there's a need to bring together to talk about the genuine challenges in our collective work. Because, from experience, whenever we are asking some lecturer or academics or even professor, associate professor to write something on the online platform, the class might be of 1 hour, but the content creation might be 3 times the amount of time which is required to prepare actually the content. In an analogy, whenever you are conducting face-to-face classes, we traditionally believe that educators, whenever the educators is telling you some theory, you generally accept the theory as something which is accurate and correct. But once the lesson is online, the student will be getting the opportunity to cross-check and verify whether your content is genuine, or whether the lecturer who is conducting the class, is the theory correct, or is he speaking the truth, or is his work being referenced? So while these can be verified online, the credibility of the online teaching is being put at stake whenever the academic or the person having the responsibility of delivering online content is not correct, or the information being put forward is easily verified on the Google or even on the internet. And if the information is incorrect, the student very easily can interrupt you in class, or even put the comments, or even actually directly challenge the academic for the content that he's presenting online. So these are some of the challenges that we can face whenever we are preparing contents which is going to be presented online. So the thing is, there's a study which has been carried out by the Open Distance Report in the Southern African Development Community, in which Mauritius forms part. There's no policy which has been dictating us to actually work on a national open distance learning framework, governance and management. The thing is, whenever we were presented to have something online, we had to work on our own, because we did not know necessarily which other public institutions, whatever they were doing, remain on their own. So these type of collaborations between public institutions remained, let's say, unfulfilled, because we had to work on our own resources by using our own knowledge, with practically very little sharing outside. Whether we were asking for help from other public institutions to give us a helping hand, the report or the support which was required was very minimal. So collaboration was an issue. And I have mentioned somewhere in this paper, there is no blueprint for creating a guide to the path of education innovation. Each institution works according to its available resources and line of subjects being taught at the level of education. So here in MGI, we are dealing mainly with humanities field of study. We cannot expect that our contents will be similar to a public university or a private one teaching, let's say, information technology, engineering, science, and other subjects. Okay, so the technical expertise which is required for humanities might reside only in MGI, because other universities do not teach the same subjects that we're teaching. And asking for help from other public universities becomes a challenge, because it might happen that whenever you are preparing contents, we might tread upon their line of expertise or even do something which are similar to them, and we become directly a competition to them. So this is why some other institutions are not willing to collaborate, and the Open Distance Report has recommended that there should be a policy on a consolidated national open distance learning framework, governance and management to be drafted. And this policy should be worked among all the 5 public tertiary education institutions that we are in the country. There's a need to provide an open distance staffing, training and development, and the movement of the staff from one institution to another should be feasible to gather experience and to share the perceptions of open distance learning. And we have to change the public perception that students usually have of open distance learning, because they are of opinion that the ODL courses are less challenging that those are being prepared for traditional face-to-face. And currently, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a need to continue this system of online learning through either blended mode or completely online resources to be dispersed online virtually, because there's no indication whether the COVID-19 pandemic will be controlled here. There's a need to build the institutional capacity in terms of producing online contents. We have to provide learner support, strengthen our quality assurance mechanisms. We have to promote monitoring and evaluation. This is with regards to assessments and the evaluation of scripts. Let me tell you that for the past 2 years, we had to find some alternate solutions for conducting examinations at the level of the MGI University of Mauritius. Traditionally, examinations were conducted face-to-face. Now with the advent of COVID-19, examinations had to be reworked. Students were required to either produce, let's say, graded assessments rather than writing question papers and answer scripts. So examinations were replaced by continuous assessments. Final year students had to write their dissertations and projects, and some of the examinations were carried out in batches of 10 to 15 students, just to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and infection among the student population. There's a need also to create a networking between academia. We have to inculcate an element of inclusive education, consolidate the curriculum development, and we have to apply all the ICT tools which are available. And we have to create once and for all an R&D facility, so research and development facility, so as to work on the full-fledged technical, academic, learner support to produce valuable content which could be used later. Because once you are creating the online content, the same content can be used over and over again with additional elements being adapted to the situations that the students are asking. There's a new breed of let's say study, or new breed of professionals that we need to create in the long term, is the creation of data scientists. Because in the technological world, with the cloud systems and the 4th industrial revolution, data which is available online have to be gathered, analyzed, and actually used for creating patterns or create, let's say, knowledge management systems that can be used for future generations. So side by side with instructional design, creating of educational content, using meaningful data to predict actually whatever trends that the education sector will be needing. All these new disciplines, these curriculum, or these type of professionals that we need, let's say by the year 2030, these professionals should be actually formed right now, so that whenever the time comes, these skills that these people will be acquiring will be serving us in other field of study or research to produce quality content online. So to conclude, so basically what we are trying to achieve with the advent of digital education, communication, and the, let's say, research gap or gap analysis that we need to actually work upon, is to adopt a sort of ubiquitous learning technologies to improve communication strategies for learners, so that it is inclusive of whatever workings that we are doing. So we are aiming towards creating an e-society, which is a term which is being coined to describe how we are learning, growing, working, governing, and socialize over the internet. I have been following some of your presentations earlier. There was a need to create, someone has mentioned that the youth of India are using the smartphones to create content, but not follow contents which are being promulgated by media, but not all of these contents are worthwhile to actually adopt, follow. Most of the media which is being created nowadays are towards sensational, creating negativity, and actually creating a biased version of views. So basically, whenever we are trying to create contents online, be it with a YouTube channel or a Facebook page, or even on a learning management system, the contents have to be verified first, referenced academically, and actually creating the right content for the right target. We cannot produce a content which is meant for a 10-year-old and use complicated language to, just like if the student is 20 years old. And the level of maturity that we are presenting content online will depend on how well trained our educational technologists will be doing like this. So the amount of training, the amount of instructions, or even the amount of dedication which is needed nowadays for a simple educator or a lecturer or a senior lecturer. So we will have to add some more skills to these persons so that whenever the contents being produced are worthwhile. Because once the content is published over the internet, it stays on that. There is no way that the content being produced now will be digitally deleted. Once it is on the internet, it remains for eternity. We might not be here sometimes. So here, the creation of the e-society will determine what the next generation of adults will be relying upon. And the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us that we have received an object lesson in how to cope with uncertainty, not by striving or control, but by developing resilience, wisdom, creativity, inclusion, and diversity. So we might be having contents from any part of the world, but these contents should be adapted to the context in which the lessons or the digital content are being prepared. So with this, I will try to end my expose. I have tried to prepare a sort of academic reference paper, which I'm trying to publish in the next 2-3 months, because I will need to gather some statistics with whatever I have written, and then I will try to publish it very soon in an academic reference journal. So I will feel free, if you have any questions, I will be glad to share it. Otherwise, I'll leave the floor to the host to continue.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhumesh, for this amazing, informative and factual session. And we in India are also facing the same challenges. And I think blended learning is one more iceberg that we recently have came across. Uh, Internet facility, availability of online study materials, like you said, a suitable LMS platform, a proper
Yes.
training to the faculty, and also a receptive audience. These are so many challenges that we are trying to combat for the past 2 years. And we now need to be
Yes.
more than teachers. Lot more dedication, a lot more skills are needed to be to make ourselves suitable for the situation. So thank you so much
Yes.
for presenting the truer facts of the nature of current situation. We don't have a question, but we
Observation.
have
Malika ma'am, one
Yes,
thing just would wanted to ask.
yes, ma'am, please.
Professor Bhumesh, thank you so much
Mhm.
for putting it so very, in detail and in a thorough researcher's manner,
Yes.
Just one thing
Thank you.
I would like to, ask that um, I think somewhere in between you have mentioned that you are trying to little centralize the entire, content because
Mhm.
as you have rightly said that every teacher is trying to handle the LMS or maybe the
Yes.
institutional LMS or personal LMS, whatever we say like Zoom or Google or Meet
Yes.
or something. But then what
Yes.
you have suggested is that government is actually trying your government is trying to centralize or maybe channelize something where the content remains the same and then it
Yes.
can be put in on TV or as a medium. So broadcasting
Yes.
on TV is something which you have found as a kind of a solution. So
Mhm.
I think Mauritius being a very small place actually with a limited number of citizens may work well, but I think if we pose that kind of even proposal here, I'm sure all my participants from India will say that this is something which is like I don't know how it
Impossible.
goes. So,
Impossible. Yeah.
Renuka ma'am, what is your take on that?
Yeah. Ma'am, even in Haryana, the lectures that we had recorded, they are being streamed live through the channels. So I think Haryana has been able to do that. And one more observation, sir, and what I have been able to gather from your presentation as well as the presentation of the other speaker, international speaker, is that most of the countries, except the highly developed ones, we are all facing the same problems. So instead of viewing the fact that these facilities are available and these are not available, we should concentrate on what we can do as teachers. As you have also pointed
Exactly.
out that we can create the digital content. So I think it is a huge opportunity for the people in India because NEP, that is the New Education Policy 2020, it has laid stress on multilingualism. And now I can see people from all over India, they have joined us and they have got a great opportunity to even if they are not creating the whole of the content, they can go in for translations. So it is
Exactly.
a huge opportunity that the national education policy is opening for the teachers, and I hope they are going to take benefit from it. So what is in our hands as teachers is only to create. So
Yes. Yes.
limitations have given us the opportunity to innovate also, as Malika ma'am had also said. And one of the teachers that who got the global award last time. He was from Maharashtra, Solapur, Maharashtra, and he had translated the books. Then he had created the QR codes and he made them available to his students. So teachers are the innovators, as one of the speakers had also said.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think
Yes.
there is a great opportunity for all of us.
To contribute. Actually,
Yes.
we are using the Google actually system or even Microsoft. There's a system of voice assistants and Google translators, which we can use to translate whatever content. But after translation, they should be verified by the linguists. And in India, we have lots of experts and doctors in linguists or even software developers, which we can translate these contents in an interactive format. And in Mauritius, the amount of software developers in this field are very less. We lack certain resources in terms of content, content transformation, and we do not have access to all the applications that are available in India. For example, a simple application which I wanted to use it is a simple Google Pay application. In Mauritius, it is not supported. So we have certain issues with the limitations of the amount of mobile applications which are compatible with our country. So these countries which are having access to these type of resources should take the maximum advantage so that the contents being created will be actually useful. Here we have to find workaround solutions, because most of the applications which are available in India is not applicable here. I take a simple example. I visited Chennai. So I bought a mobile. The mobile which I'm talking to right now is an Oppo. So I had Spotify installed in India, and to my surprise, when I came back to my country, the Spotify app was not working. So basically, Spotify, all these mobile applications prevalent in India, which was very popular, is not compatible here. So being an IT person, I know how to work around the solution, but these solutions are not readily available to all the, let's say we say common people here. So these issues should be, worked on, and we have to find the appropriate solutions for that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Bhumesh, Dr. Renuka ma'am, and Dr. Preeti Oza. So we have our next speaker with us, Dr. Sanjeev Gupta, consultant and faculty trainer, Chandigarh. Sir has plethora of publications under his name and has a diverse and extensive academic, research, corporate, and business experience. We are privileged to have you with us. Today, Dr. Sanjeev is presenting his views on digital teaching, the quality management perspective. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for a warm welcome. When we talk of digital teaching and when we talk of quality management perspective, now these are two different things. But in my view, when we talk of education to the students, when we talk of education to the at the higher level, the two have to be blended. So I'll share my experience that how these two can be blended together. And today, the quality of teaching and the quality of learning and the quality of understanding has become much more difficult when we talk of digital teaching. So I'll also share a small PPT with the participants. Let me. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay.
You have to max. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So we are talking of quality management perspective first. Well, the first question is, what is quality? When we say quality, it is certainly that the product or the service that we are providing to our customers must fulfill or exceed the expectations. Now, this seems to be the definition with the products or the services which are available to us. But here, when we say customer, I call our students, our stakeholders, and our customers. So whatever service we are providing through teaching, through learning, it has to be excellent and it must meet the expectations of our customers. Similarly, when we say quality, we don't build the quality at the final stage. That means that when we are teaching, when we are sharing our experiences with the students, we cannot say that we will provide the quality of teaching at the final stage. It has to start from the day one when we start making our curriculums. And it has to be built in at every stage. That means the curriculum, the teaching, the learning, the practicals, and finally, when we say that our students are now able to implement practically what we have taught. We also call something called total quality management. Now, it is again more of a word which is used in the industry or the corporate sector. But here we talk of again the quality, but here we say that we must satisfy all our stakeholders. It means not only the students, even we are responsible to satisfy the society, where the students are going, where the students are getting their jobs. So we must ensure that our stakeholders are also satisfied as far as our teaching is concerned. Now, whether it is digital or whether it is offline, the results have to be the same, but it becomes much more difficult when we are talking of digital teaching, when there is no face-to-face connection between the student and the teacher. If I talk of our education system today, we are still plodding on the same beaten track which we started way back in maybe at the time of independence, a few years after that. And we are in the process of increasing the education systems, increasing the number of universities, colleges, but we tend to neglect the quality of teaching. And when we say we neglect quality of teaching, it is true for schools, it is true for colleges, it is true for higher educational institutions, and to some extent it is true for the research also. So that is at present what our education system is. And if I project it like this, that our traditional classroom system is also covering the syllabi, explaining what we want to explain, but whether the students have really understood the concept of it is we generally don't care about it. That is a present system. But as we go through the National Education Policy 2020, which has been introduced now, where multilingual, multidisciplinary approach is being emphasized, and we are talking of innovations and critical thinking right from the day the student starts going to the school, the responsibility on our shoulders has become much more. And specifically when we are talking of digital teaching, when we are talking of e-learning, the responsibilities and the methodology with which we can achieve our objectives is becoming much more difficult. If I talk of education system more or less in Asia, our curriculum systems is quite rigid and is mostly prepared for offline teaching. Generally, we have some lectures, we deliver the lectures, some practical part of it we cover in our labs, but we are nowhere near the Industry 4.0 society. We still emphasize on rote learning, completion of syllabi, not only by the students, by the faculty members also. And we are more or less regulated by the affiliating universities. So in the process, we have lost contact with quality assurance or quality of the teaching. And when we today see that whatever systems and methodologies we have prepared for offline teaching, only a small portion of it is now being used in the e-learning or e-teaching systems. So that means on us, the responsibility of assuring quality of teaching on a digital platform has become much more difficult, and it has to be understood by all of us that we need to change our methodology in such a way that we are able to deliver quality education to our students. Let me take you through the Education 3.0, which to a large extent is being followed in the universities, but not in the colleges. And in Asia, very few countries have reached this level of education 3.0, which says that we are talking of student-centered approach, and where the teacher is more of a coordinator or a facilitator rather than a teacher. Because the information with the students is available on the net as much as they want. But the issue is whether they can transform that information into knowledge, and knowledge into the practical use is very difficult as far as digital teaching is concerned.
Malika ma'am, has it stopped for me or?
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I think it is on.
From
Okay.
sir sides, ma'am.
Okay, okay, fine. Because now I'm the host. So I
Dr. Sanjeev, can you hear us? I think sir has lost the connection, ma'am.
yes, I also feel the same.
Can we reach him through call?
Yeah, I'll just call him. We'll
Yes,
wait for
ma'am.
a few minutes here. Yes, he has somehow lost the connection. So he has asked us to wait for 5 minutes.
Okay, okay.
And the weather from Bombay, I think it has shifted now to Chandigarh because Preeti ma'am also, she said that it has started raining there. So she has made me the host now. I'm going to control the technical side.
Ma'am, I'm back.
Okay, okay, good,
Sorry.
good, ma'am. But we have lost connection with one of our speakers. He is going to join us in a while.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Just a minute. Give him 5
Yes, yes. Is he joining back?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. When they were all in admit room, you didn't admit them?
When did they try to?
Yeah, almost 4, 5 of them are in
4 or
waiting
5?
room.
They must new ones.
Yeah, new ones, I guess. No, the other one. I don't know, ma'am, actually.
No, because
Anyways, let us continue.
yeah, sir
with
has joined back. Sir has joined back.
Welcome again, Dr. Sanjeev.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Sure. Okay. So after
But
education 3.0, yeah, ma'am.
no problem, sir.
After the education 3.0, the world is moving towards education 4.0. I'm talking about this because when we talk of education 4.0, we are talking more of the creativity plans. We are not talking of teaching on a daily basis. We are not teaching on a regular basis the same thing to every student. Here, we are talking of how we innovate, how the students can create critical thinking powers in them. And that is when we say co-creation and innovation is the concept for education 4.0. And if we talk about developed countries, more or less, they are talking of hybrid teaching. That means online plus offline. So today, when we talk of digital teaching, we can also switch over to such a platform which can create the students to be more innovative. They can think critically. They can think out of the box. And let's talk of digital teaching now. I was discussing about the concept of quality and the concept of what is in store for all of us in the next few years. As far as the education system is concerned, we may have to shift ourselves to education 3.0 system to education 4.0, where we talk more of projects, where we talk more of innovation-led projects, we talk of multidisciplinary projects. When we faced this COVID-19 situation, the face-to-face teaching almost came to a standstill. And we, the Indian faculty members, were not ready at that time to go digital. First few months, we did face a lot of problems. We were not aware what are the platforms which can be used for teaching our students. We didn't know how to use those platforms, what are the features available in those platforms. And first 2-3 months, we were in such a situation that we could not contact our students properly as how we are going to teach them. Digital teaching is a wide area where different methods, different applications can be used, processes are different, and we can use different academic areas. When we talk of multidisciplinary, multilinguistic, it becomes much more, I should say, easier for us to use multidisciplinary areas when we talk of digital teaching, because we use a lot of videos, we use a lot of models to interact with our students. But here, the main emphasis is that teachers have to redesign their plan, how they are going to teach the students, and the students get a satisfactory response to what they are being taught. Now, when we say redesign the methodology, in the classroom, we are all aware that when we talk face to face, the students interact with us, they ask questions, even the students interact among themselves. But on a digital platform, it was very difficult to interact with the students, reply to their questions. So that is when we said the methodology had to change. And the major drawback that we faced was that all teachers and all students didn't have the digital competence to deliver and to receive lectures from each other. Now, we did have virtual classes, but we didn't have the competence to use those platforms. Students' perception of digital learning are the crucial indicators of quality of learning experience. Now, students sitting far away, maybe about 300 kilometers away in a hilly area where the internet is a problem, even WhatsApps are not being received. So the satisfaction level of students had really gone down. That means that we as the faculty members have to ensure that we do provide quality service to them. And it is very vital to ensure that our implementation of any online learning system is correct and it meets the requirement of the students. In the classrooms, yes, offline mode, we are able to interact with them, we give them the projects, we hold quiz, but on a digital platform, it was becoming very difficult for all of us to provide quality teaching to the students. Now, when we talk of quality measurement, that was what, when I started off, that we must provide quality service to our customers. Well, quality certainly was started by the manufacturing sector, again the industry, because we wanted our products to be of the quality or the standards that we intend to have. And the same cannot be applied directly to the higher education system. This thing is very clear. Though some of the experts did try to match the quality standards of the manufacturing or the service industry with the education industry, but somehow or the other, I strongly feel that they cannot be directly applied to the higher education system. Because higher education system consists of two things, teaching and learning. Whereas when we talk of a product quality, it is the product quality. And second is that when we talk of a product, we talk on the monetary basis, the cost. But when we talk of education, when we talk of learning, knowledge, we just cannot make it in a financial terms. So higher education institutions have the considerable responsibility of preparing students for life, not to earn money. So there is a difference. When we talk of a product, we talk of the cost. When we talk of education, we are not talking of the cost. We are not talking of the income that he is going to get after getting educated. We are preparing students for life skills. So when we say quality, we just cannot apply the standards of the industry in the education system. Then how do we measure the quality of our education system? Certainly we have to measure it. Certainly we must know whether we are able to satisfy customers or not. So the question came that, is the quality of teaching about outputs such as the grades the students got, the degrees that they got, competencies, or the jobs that they got? Is that a measure of quality of teaching? Is the money spent on the production of videos, other contents through which we teach like models, is that the quality of the teaching? When we talk of e-teaching, when we talk of digital platforms, or is it the sophistication of the technology platform on which we are teaching to our students that we can say that we are doing a great job, we are doing a very, the platform is techno savvy and there are so many features in it? Is that the quality of the teaching that we are looking at? Probably not. We can't say that our students were getting good grades, they are getting good jobs, that means our quality of teaching is good. We can't also say that since I have spent so much money in producing my videos or other contents, that means my quality of teaching is good. And we also cannot say that this platform has so many features, it can record the movements of the students, it can record the facial expression of the students, we can give quiz, that means my quality of teaching is good. Probably these are not the three factors which will measure our quality of teaching. When we say quality of teaching, again I emphasize, it is the stakeholders' satisfaction which can ensure that our quality of teaching is good. The practical experience that the students get while on digital platform can be one measure of good teaching methodology. Continuous evaluation of course performance. Now, when we are in an offline mode, we do have some regular tests, we have our term exams, we have our final exams. But when we are talking of digital teaching, probably the evaluation has to be continuous. The engagement of the students have to be continuous. The student feedback has to be continuous so that we can keep on modifying our methodology. Now, when we say evaluation, continuous evaluation, that means what we are trying to do. We are trying to keep them engaged with us. What we are trying to do is we are ensuring that they are present in our lectures, because we are going to evaluate them on a continuous basis. Similarly, the feedback from the students, whether they have understood what we wanted to interact with them, whether they have understood the topic or not, will ensure that whether we are on the right track or not. A few of the researchers have done measurement of the quality on digital platforms, where they said that they thought that there are 4 basic characteristics which can be measured. What is the system characteristics? Of course, effectiveness of online teaching, relationship with teachers and evaluation, and satisfaction with online teaching. So they have done a lot of research with the different questionnaires, and they came out with 3 or 4 such areas which they feel should be improved to make the students satisfied and to provide quality education to the students. One was that interaction between the students. Now, when in a digital mode, what we are doing is that there is an interaction between the teacher and the student. First is there is very little interaction, because we are on a platform, we deliver lectures, hardly any student would come back to us for a question, but even if they come back, the interaction remains between student and the teacher. But the interaction among the students is what is worrying the researchers, which is always present when we talk of offline teaching. And specifically when we were talking of education 3.0 and 4.0, it was more of an interaction among the students rather than with the teacher. And this was the highest level of discrepancy which was noted while the research was carried out. So when we talk of interaction between the students, it will not only help them to exchange their views, it will not only help them to understand views of their fellow students, and they will have divergent points of view on a particular topic or a subject. In virtual teaching, it becomes very difficult. That means we may have to form some discussion groups, we may have to form some debates groups which can interact with each other, rather than only and only interaction between the student and the teacher. I'm sure a lot of teachers must have formed discussion groups or debates or group discussions among themselves. But this is one point which will make the students satisfy and feel as if they are learning in an offline mode. And second point is concentration of students in online classes. I would say that most of our teachers would agree with me that the concentration in online classes is at a very low level as compared to what they do in the offline classes. Because one, there is no check, and second, there is no motivation for them to concentrate in the online mode, because the teacher is delivering a lecture and the students are listening to it. The discussions forums were missing. The interaction between the teacher and the student is not there. And if I talk of India, probably internet connection, the bandwidth is so poor that we generally ask our students to switch off their videos. That means that they can just relax and listen to the teachers, and whenever they want, they can also think something else or read something else, because there is no direct live communication between the student and the teacher. So to improve that, we say that our online session should be small. We should not conduct an hour-long, 1 hour class or 1.5 hour class. Let it be a shorter sessions where the students can concentrate. Mind breaks could be inserted into the planning. That basically means that between the two sessions, can we give them a break? Because sitting in front of a screen for whole day long is not very good for the students. They feel that they cannot keep on sitting in front of a screen and keep on listening to our teachers. And in addition, can we have some mini tasks, short activities, which will make them interested in what we are trying to teach? So the second issue that came up, in addition to the human contact, was the level of concentration. Then came reviewing online tests. I said that continuous evaluation, and certainly assessment is a very complex process. We have to find out the methodology as how we can do a continuous evaluation of the students. We cannot say that, okay, after 10 days we'll have a class test, or after 15 days we'll have a quiz. That will not work in the digital mode. So our continuous evaluation has to be there. And of course, when we talk of the systems, the students will feel satisfied when they have a good bandwidth, good internet, which probably may not be in the hands of the faculty members, but certainly the administrators will have to install such a systems that at least they are able to convey to the students. And we may have to find out few other ways for those students who are living in the remote areas where the internet connectivity is poor, how we can send them through WhatsApp messages, or we can send them through emails, or we can send them some videos which they can download whenever the connectivity is available. So we have to make sure that in case we want our students to be satisfied, in case we want that our education system should be of good quality, we need to upgrade our methodology of teaching also. And we may have to use multi-modes for a same thing. As I said earlier, if we really want to improve and measure our performance, we may have to go in for discussion forums. The learning experience in any digital mode is much better when the students discuss among themselves. It will help them in performing their, enhancing their all-round professional performances. It will make them understand their co-students. And then the first point that we said, human touch, which is missing now, even among their own fellow students, fellow classmates, that will be taken care of. So discussion forum is one area which can improve quality of education system. We need to make them participate. As I said, small tasks, mind breaks, discussion forums, some group work, maybe some writing workshops, brainstorming. So all these are methodologies to keep them engaged. When we say group work, let them collaborate among themselves, maybe off the class, carry out a group work, present it into when we have the next classes. Let them write a paper. Let all of them combine their wisdom, write down a paper, modify it, let them brainstorm on a particular subject in a class where we can have small groups. Okay, five students, 7 students can brainstorm, others can listen to what they are trying to say. And such similar small activities will keep them engaged. Some research can be carried out by the students, which can be presented in the class. So it will also increase their engagement. Some debates can be held. And certainly we can also create some open thread where they can ask questions to their peers, to these teachers, where they can interact with themselves. So basically, when we talk of quality of education, and specifically in the digital mode, we may have to shift our methodology from the older offline mode to more interactive mode. I have just gone through some of the research papers which have created this rubric assessment, where he says that quantity and timelines of the assessments being given, whether they are written in a good form or not, whether it demonstrates the knowledge or the understanding of the topic to the student or not. And we can make different rubrics for anything, just to check, assess these students, whether they have understood what we wanted to convey or not, whether they have understood the topic or not, whether they can implement the topic into a real life or not. So when we say that let's check the quality of our teaching, rubric assessment is one such area which can be used for the assessment. Similarly, we can have assessment of the assignments that are being given to them. So we can generate any type of rubric to find out whether the quality of our teaching in the digital mode is of the required level or not. And another thing which came up during the process when we shifted over to digital mode was active learning. That means role playing. I'll just give an example. When I was conducting a class for the management students for MBA, and it was becoming too boring to explain what is marketing, how do we market, 7 Ps, 9 Ps, all different things were being done, which I'm sure the students were not finding it very challenging to understand, because all those things were available on the net also. Then as a small group activity, we said that, okay, there will be 2 persons who will be trying to sell a particular product, and there will be 2 persons who will try to buy that product. Let's see how the selling takes place, how the buying takes place, what are the questions that the buyer is going to ask to the seller, and how seller is going to make sure that the buyers buy my product. So it was about 15 minutes of exercise which was done online. And I could see the response from the students, those who were watching it, not playing the role, but they were those who were watching it, that how the actual practical marketing is being done. Now, once they were watching, they certainly have their own points to discuss after the role play is over. The faculty member is there to pitch in, and it became a 1 hour lively session as how marketing is done. And we could cover all the 6-7 P's of marketing when we were discussing this case study. It was more of a actual case study rather than what we read in the books. So that is also another type of teaching methodology which we can use when we talk of quality of teaching. So friends, when I say that quality of teaching on a digital platform, it is having a different shape. Now, all these things, if we say that we can do in the offline mode, yes, we can do. But there, the challenges are different and the challenging on the digital platforms are different. It is much easier for us to understand whether the students are satisfied with our teaching or not in an offline mode. And it is very difficult for us to understand the quality of our teaching on a digital mode. So we may have to form some rubrics, we may have to do some role plays, we may have to do some the assignments to them, we may have to give them a group assignments so that human touch is not lost. We may have to give them some challenging questions which they may have to discuss among themselves to find a solution to it. So friends, when I talk of digital teaching, digital platforms, and I talk of quality management systems, the perspective is that we must ensure and we must measure the quality of our teaching. We just cannot keep ourselves silent that we have delivered the lectures, we have delivered on a beautiful platform, we have shown them the videos, we have discussed with them, but we need to measure whether they have really transformed that information that we have passed on to them into their knowledge, and can that knowledge be used for practical use? Can they innovate something from the knowledge they have got? Can they do thinking out of the box from the knowledge that they have got? And I always say it is not learning to use your mind is the education, not filling it with information. So we must learn as what is the topic is, we must learn how to use that information and the knowledge. So this is what I wanted to say, friends, and I would request that we have a few questions on this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjeev. Your emphasis on proliferation of quality education is the need of the time. And to make a student a researcher from the very beginning is what we have to do. And also quality, like you said, quality being measured through catering of students' need, if their needs are being met or not, and modifying our methods on the basis of their feedback are the key learnings from your session. Thank you so much for this informative presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I believe that through these 4 hours, all of us have obtained a diverse and fresh POVs for digital education. We have learned a lot from the keynote sessions delivered by the amazing keynote speakers. Once again, on behalf of the committee, thank you for delivering such important materials so that all of us can deepen our knowledge about challenges in present day communication. And I want to personally thank Madam Renuka Dhyani for giving me the chance to partake in this workshop. I learned so much today. So thank you, Madam. And now I would like to invite Dr. Renuka Dhyani for vote of thanks and closing address. Welcome, ma'am.
Malika ma'am, Renuka ma'am is having some issues.
Okay.
Problem.
Then I
She's
invite
there, but she has some technical network issues.
Okay. So I welcome you, ma'am, on the forum.
Rita ma'am, Professor Rita ma'am is there.
Okay.
Just check. Professor Rita ma'am, principal ma'am.
Okay, Mrs. Rita Gupta ma'am.
Yeah, I think she said that she's joining.
Okay. So should I call Madam Rita Gupta ma'am?
Yeah, if you can please give her a call, because Renuka ma'am just called up, and then in that case, I think we need to.
I heartily welcome Mrs. Rita Gupta, Madam, Joint Director of Higher Education, Haryana, and also Principal of Sri Mata Mansa Devi Sanskrit College, Panchkula. Welcome, ma'am. We are pleased to have you here once again. Do we have, madam?
Some power failure, and I think Renuka ma'am's even she said that in her area the inverters are also not almost. I mean, it's timed out.
Okay, okay.
Just a minute, ma'am.
Ma'am, do we have any feedback mechanism? Participants were asking that how can they register their attendance?
Okay, meanwhile, Renuka ma'am joins in. I just would like to, because I've already put in some in between, instructions, but their names are already there with us because they have already logged in, and then login time and log out time and everything is there because this is the licensed Zoom, so we get the data directly. They also have, filled up the registration forms, and some of them have joined in from our YouTube channel also. Even that is a licensed channel, so we are getting all the details over there also. So not an issue about the attendance. The feedback link will be shared with you by email by tonight or maybe by tomorrow. And then depending on the feedback, link, the way you respond, those who are able to give the feedback, the certificates will be issued accordingly, and it will take around 3 to 4 days to get your certificates done.
Okay, ma'am.
So I think Renuka ma'am is not able to join in, I guess.
Okay. So how should we proceed, ma'am?
Just a minute, ma'am. I'll just maybe 1 more minute.
Meanwhile, it is my pleasure to thank all the academicians, the keynote address speakers who put their heart and soul to to prepare their presentations, and who came here to make this workshop a successful workshop. And also, I want to thank Mrs. Rita Gupta, Madam, Principal Shri Mata Mansa Devi Sanskrit Government College, Dr. Gurudatta Japi, Chairman and Founder, Trustee GAP, which is a Grand Academic Portal, Dr. Preeti Oza, CEO GAC, Global Academic Assessment Consortium, and also Dr. Renuka Dhyani ma'am, who is just joining us, Associate Professor, SMMD College, Panchkula. Only because of their motivation, their their inquisitiveness and inventiveness only.
Malika ma'am, meanwhile, we have a senior professor, Dr. Seema Hariramani ma'am. She's also a very senior member from GAP, and she would like to just give a vote of thanks on behalf of GAP. And meanwhile, we expect that Rita ma'am and Renuka ma'am. Dr. Seema ma'am, thank you ma'am. Seema ma'am is our senior member in GAP, and she will provide vote of thanks on behalf of GAP.
Yes. Welcome, welcome ma'am.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am. Thank you. On behalf of GAP and on my personal behalf, I take this opportunity to thank all the speakers and resource persons for their deliverance. And I'm sure that all the participants, whosoever has joined today, have got some or the other thing. We got so much information. We shared ma'am, like Kolkata, ma'am from Kolkata also shared her experiences. We all felt the same thing, right? So thank you so much, all the speakers. We are very much thankful to you for sharing your experiences and enlightening us. Thank you very much for these informative sessions. Thank you. Over to you.
Ma'am, Renuka ma'am, you there?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, Renuka ma'am has called me, and
Dr. Rita ma'am also is there.
Okay, okay. Ma'am, Renuka ma'am want to speak something, and she is on my call, and I'm putting her on speaker. So
Director ma'am also has joined in.
yes, ma'am, please speak. You are on the forum, ma'am.
Okay. Can I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Malika?
Yes, ma'am. Is ma'am audible? Dr. Preeti? Is ma'am audible?
I hope
We can hear you, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, it is playing on. So it was my duty to extend a vote of thanks. So first of all, I would like to extend my vote of thanks to the Department of Higher Education, Haryana, for providing patronage to one of its newly created colleges to hold this international web workshop on digital communication. Our college is only 1 year old, and this is an achievement we have done today. My gratitude is then due to our chief guest, Mrs. Rita Gupta, who joined the inaugural session despite her very busy engagement, owing to her dual charge as joint director and also as the principal of the college. Our established and ground speakers, who stirred our senses by sweet sounds, as well as set our minds thinking with their equally enlightening interactions and deliberations, deserve our gratitude the most because they have been gracious, forthcoming, and selfless in sharing their knowledge and experience with the others from the academic fraternity. My gratitude to Dr. Manjula Srinivas, Dr. Suparna Chakravarti, Dr. Francesca Vidyavati, Dr. Umesh Viduti, and Dr. Sanjeev Gupta. Thank you very much, sir. After the spokespersons, it is our participants who deserve our time. They have joined us and stayed active with us through these 5 sessions, despite it being a post-month session. Hope the workshop has added to your wealth of knowledge. A vote of thanks would be incomplete without my extending sincere and heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Preeti Oja, CEO GAP and Director GAP, whose constant support from the inception of this workshop till the very end has helped us in steering through all the technical aspects seamlessly. I was completely at a loss on being handed over the help of this virtual platform for a short time. The word thank you would not suffice to express my gratefulness to our moderator, Dr. Malika Tiwari, who has given me the confidence to rely on her without any second thought. Thank you to one and all. I hope I have been audible.
Yes, ma'am. I think.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So now I will leave it to Preeti ma'am to please close the session as I cannot join it.
Ma'am, no, on behalf of GAP, we already had Dr. Seema Hariramni ma'am, and then now I think Professor Rita Gupta ma'am is here with us for the last words of wisdom.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am.
Thank you, all the organizers team.
Thank you.
Shall we leave now?
Hello. Thank you, Preeti ma'am. Thank you, Priyanka ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. We are waiting for your final words to wind up the seminar.
Thank you for joining us for the closing address, ma'am. And this is the
Malika
time
ma'am,
that
we need to
all
wind
can...
up. It's
Yes,
a
ma'am.
very
Yes, ma'am.
difficult
Yes, ma'am.
network today, and then I think you can just wind up.
Yes, ma'am. All the attendees may leave now. And as ma'am said that you may get your feedback forms in your emails. So that's all for today. Have a happy evening and have great days ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. See you all on some different platforms.
Thank you, Dr.
Somewhere.
Preeti.
Thank you.
Thank you.